Chapter 207. Just as he was about to be defeated, SCA used a flash of inspiration in his mind to discover ZD's flaw. This allowed Zhenjin to finally see through ZD's true intentions. "I never thought that there would be a deadly viper lurking by my side. You damned woman, you actually want to take my life." Zhenjin was both shocked and angry. He pulled out his silver lightning and was about to assassinate ZD. At the crucial moment, SCA cried out in alarm and spared ZD's life. "My divine power is already insufficient. Relying on myself, there is no way to invade the authority. However, my spirit has always been entangled with ZD's spiritual power. Her spirit has been recognized by the Tower Spirit. I am trying my best to adjust my own spirit and pretend to be her. Only in this way can I regain control of the teleportation authority. Of course, if Miss ZD can obediently cooperate with me, that would be the best." ZD stubbornly resisted. SCA's face was ferocious as he roared in a low voice, torture her ruthlessly." Zhenjin kicked ZD to the ground. The thin silver lightning in his hand stabbed down repeatedly and then pierced ZD's hands and feet. The immense pain caused ZD's body to twitch. Blood flowed and soon accumulated into a bright red pool of blood. Zhenjin was proficient in martial arts and was even more skilled in torturing people. He had a good understanding of the human body structure. ZD suffered great pain but did not die immediately. ZD was disturbed by the pain and was no longer SCA's opponent in terms of spiritual power. She was defeated again and again. Zhenjin continued to torture the girl in front of him. He wished he could pull out her tendons and skin her alive. "You actually dared to fool me and deceive me. Who do you think you are? A merchant's daughter. It is your great fortune to be able to marry me. You actually fell in love with a substitute and abandoned me? Ha ha ha. As expected, scum will always be scum. The bottom can't be seen in public." Zhenjin continued to roar. ZD had no strength to open her eyes. But she was still alive. "Beg for mercy, beg for mercy. As long as you beg me, I will poke one less hole in you. Ha!" However, ZD did not have the slightest intention of surrendering. Even if she was weak to the point of being unable to resist, even if she could only allow herself to be slaughtered, even if she was completely unrecognizable at this moment, reduced to a bloody figure, and in an extremely miserable state, she didn't make a sound from the beginning until the end, and she didn't have the slightest intention of compromising or begging for mercy. This made Zhenjin even angrier and also made Scab feel uneasy. What happened? Even though the priest was quickly encroaching on her authority, he could still feel that ZD still had some spirit left. She was hiding in the corner, resisting stubbornly. Zhenjin's methods of torturing people were so cold and sinister that even Scab felt a chill in his heart. With her injuries, she should have fainted long ago. No, to be exact, she's unconscious. But why? Why is it that even though she's unconscious, there's still a part of her spirit that hasn't collapsed? What is she holding on to? What is she holding on to? Does she think there's still hope? The uneasiness in the priest's heart continued to expand. He quickly examined the entire situation. On the 4th floor of the central tower, he had already taken control of the situation. Zhenjin and the 4 apologetic knights were gathered by his side, and ZD, who had almost killed him not long ago, had been completely defeated. In the 3rd level, there would occasionally be a bolt of lightning striking down in a disorderly manner. Only the space near the blood core was safe. Zhonggu, Sangsu, and the others were reminded by ZD. They surrounded the blood core, not daring to move around. They were afraid that they would be struck to death by lightning like their substitute. On the 2nd floor, the 1st floor, and outside the tower, there were a large number of man-made magical beasts. These magical beasts were killing each other. The scene was bloody and chaotic. Even further away, in the lava battlefield, the sealed Fire Dragon King was also very, very far away from breaking free. Scab still couldn't find the source of the uneasiness in his heart. Could it be that success is near, and I'm worried about my gains and losses? Darkness. There was only a deep darkness. After a beast's roar, the youth's consciousness gathered here. Where is this place? Where am I? The youth's consciousness became clearer, and he began to ask questions. The boundless darkness shrouded him. It was silent, and there was no response. The youth's hope was dwindling. He looked at himself, but he couldn't see himself. The confusion in his heart grew. Then, who am I? Who am I? Along with this doubt, suddenly, a scene came to the youth. Beside the forest, a purple-eyed girl had an anxious look on her face. You are Zhenjin, you are Baron Zhenjin. My God, my lord, have you forgotten your own identity? Zhenjin, I am Zhenjin? Why can't I remember anything? The girl replied, My lord, we encountered a shipwreck a few days ago. The storm swept the deck, the ship broke, and the survivors were stranded on this island, beside the bonfire at night. ZD carefully considered her words before replying, Lord Zhenjin, I actually don't know much about you. But according to the rumors, my lord usually doesn't get close to women, and is a lone wolf. Even if you encounter a major event, you won't easily reveal your emotions. You spend most of your time in the temple, with a serious expression and a taciturn silence. But your food, clothing, housing, and every movement are elegant and calm, full of the style of a noble. Although you have few friends, you are willing to help others, especially the weak, and help the poor. So, my lord, you have always had a good reputation among the lower class. Also, my lord, you suddenly made a move this time and successfully joined the competition for the position of White Sand City's lord. It seems that the other temple knights were very surprised. In the stuffy cave, the temple knights charged to their deaths. After a fierce battle, the brown monkey-tail bear died, and the youth fell to the ground. He he he. He looked at the huge bear corpse, letting out a weak laugh until his breath dissipated. In the spider forest, yellow algae called for help. The youth and the girl discussed. You are right. But you have forgotten the most important point. ZD quickly restrained her smile and looked down. Please instruct me, my lord. I am a temple knight, a knight among knights. Helping the weak, saving the dying and healing the injured is my creed. Even in times of danger, I will not abandon my companions. The youth's powerful words echoed in the quiet forest. For a moment, ZD looked at the youth and was stunned, then she smiled. My lord, I understand. Sang-Su brought Lan Zhao and yellow algae to seek refuge. Zhenjin looked at the people around him, his body as straight as a spear, his calm voice clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. The glory of the temple shrouds every inch of land. The Empire's military flag protects every citizen of the Empire. Follow me, I will lead you out of here alive. Yes, my lord. Everyone replied in unison, half kneeling on the ground. Lan Zhao praised from the bottom of his heart. Master, your strength is really strong. Lord Zhenjin, your talent is amazing. Your bravery and achievements will be widely praised. Sang-Su also said, My lord, with you here, there is nothing to be afraid of. You are a knight, a temple knight. This time, it is you who saved us. Baya shouted excitedly, breaking the silence. Master, us brothers will follow you to death, no matter when or where, no matter if the sky falls or the earth sinks. Lan Zhao also expressed his loyalty. As expected of the Hundred Needles bloodline. In terms of accuracy, the Hundred Needles bloodline can be ranked in the top 5 in the entire Xingming continent. Lord Zhenjin, you are the hope of the Hundred Needles clan. You will definitely bring glory back to the clan. The exploration team ran out of food and was in imminent danger. Only by successfully encircling the flying squirrels could they have a chance of survival. Before the battle, the youth shouted loudly, Today, if we defeat them, they will be our food. If we fail, we will be their food. I, Zhenjin, as a temple knight and the only successor of the 100 Needles clan, will be with you. I will lead you through difficulties and obstacles to reap victory. Follow me and let us obtain glory. In the desert, the youth charged at the front, leading the team to break through the encirclement of the lizards. I said that I will not abandon anyone. Zhenjin was resolute and decisive. Bai Ye will not be an exception. My lord! Bai Ye, who was in a desperate situation, saw Zhenjin come to save him and was extremely excited. His eyes were full of gratitude, admiration, and love. Taking Bai Ye, Zhenjin killed his way back and successfully reunited with the others. Follow me and leave this place. Zhenjin's tone was calm as he charged at the front again. Yes, my lord. Everyone answered in unison, their morale soaring. After getting rid of the scorpions, the youth returned to the desert. There were only 4 people left in the team. I once said that I will do my best to save everyone and will not abandon anyone. This is my promise and also my responsibility. The youth said to Zd and Sang-Su, My lord, your noble character makes the bright stars in the night sky dim. Sang-Su sighed from the bottom of his heart, You are the model of the temple knights. In the oasis, Bai Ye woke up. His eyes were red and hot tears fell. He choked and said, Lord Zhenjin, I know that you carried me all the way. You are a noble temple knight, but you risked your life for a lowly person like me. You also gave me precious water to drink. Lady Zd and Scholar Sang-Su have told me all this. Helping the weak and saving the good is the creed of the temple knights. The youth smiled. Lord Zhenjin, you are amazing. You are so young, but you have mastered the power of the mind. Compared to the Storm Sword Saint, my lord, you have an even better bloodline. Among the temple knights, my lord, you must be the most special. To be able to meet my lord and follow my lord, it is my honor. Bai Ye sighed from the bottom of his heart. Sang-Su laughed and said in a very positive tone, Lord Zhenjin is extremely talented and will definitely have a brighter future than the Storm Sword Saint. But what I admire the most is your moral character, Lord Zhenjin. With your words, the 100 Needles family will definitely rise again. The first time he met Zhonggu, the 2 sides confronted each other. The youth immediately grasped the hilt of his sword and frowned deeply. His face sank and his eyes became as cold as ice. He shouted in a low voice, Zhonggu, watch your words. You dare to look down on God. I bear the gaze of the Xingming Emperor. This is the blessing of God. Magic is the gift of God, it is not a show or a proof of identity. Apologize to me now, right now. Otherwise, you will incur the wrath of a temple knight. Let's go back to the camp together. The youth took the initiative to invite Zhonggu and the others. We are on the same boat, we are all victims of the shipwreck. We come from many places, we have different identities, but here we are all victims who have fallen to this island and want to escape with our lives. Our goal is the same. We should be united. Any doubt, indifference, disgust, opposition and so on will make it difficult for us to cooperate and thus reduce the possibility of us escaping. I am the Temple Knight Zhenjin. Here, I promise you that I will treat everyone fairly and justly, no matter where they come from, no matter what race they are, no matter what bloodline they have. I will also severely punish the criminals, punish the real culprits, and not let them go unpunished. I will do my best, take the lead, and lead everyone to seek the hope of salvation. After the defense of the camp, the youth, Zhonggu, Sandao, and Lan Zhao chased after the defeated magical beast army. The half-beast was shocked by the youth's appearance. After a while, he opened his mouth and said with a strange, helpless and angry tone, "Hey Zhenjin boy, you aren't a knight of God, are you?" "Knight of God?" The youth raised his beautiful eyebrows. "I'm a knight of God? Am I? I'm not too sure." In the small valley, the youth and the others finally met up with the main group. Lan Zhao stood on the secondary stone stairs and loudly announced, "You must listen carefully. The one standing in front of you now is my master, Lord Jinjin. He is the only heir of the 100 Needles family, a noble knight of God, and will be the future lord of White Sand City. The youth preached. Whether it is a mountain, an ocean, a swamp, or an island, my lord's holy light shines on everything. The Empire's military flag will always flutter in the wind, standing tall. Nothing can stop me from moving forward. I will obtain glory, and if you follow me, glory will also belong to you. From now on, I will be in charge of this place. Who has objections? During the construction of the new ship, the small valley was continuously attacked by the magical beast army. The youth raised his voice slightly. Everyone has a place on this ship, no one will be left behind. In other words, we are all on the same boat. I know there are differences between us. In terms of status, bloodline, appearance, and personality, there are all kinds of differences. But these differences should not be the reason for our suspicion, opposition, and internal friction. We should unite tightly. Only in this way can we maximize the possibility of escape. We are all on the same side. Unsurprisingly, his impromptu speech won cheers from the crowd. Baya's coma hit the youth hard. In the passage, ZD took the initiative to throw herself into Zhen Jin's arms. Sir. She wrapped her arms around Zhen Jin's waist and hugged the young knight tightly. Lord Jinjin, you are absolutely qualified, no, an excellent leader, you are a knight, my knight, please do not doubt yourself. The valley collapsed, the new ship was unable to sail, and the earth cracked due to the earthquake, forming a new river in the blink of an eye. Just now, the Xingming Emperor gave me a revelation. Zhen Jin pointed at the river. Everyone was stunned again. Could it be that this river was created by the Xingming Emperor? No wonder not a single person died. God's will is unfathomable. Divine Knight. Sang Su bowed deeply to Zhen Jin and sighed. Perhaps this is your path to becoming a hero. My Lord Zhen Jin. Almost everyone present felt their scalps go numb. They felt like they were witnessing history. This was going to be a hero's epic. In the darkness, the youth's consciousness was about to take shape. So, I am Zhen Jin. I am a noble, a knight, and a hero. Suddenly, the youth's consciousness became chaotic again. After killing the brown monkey bear, he recuperated in the cave. The lingering fear after his death made him pray to the Xingming Emperor, repent and beg for mercy. There was no response. The exploration team was short on food, and hunting the pterosaur swarm was too risky. The youth was helpless, so he prayed to the Xingming Emperor. There was no response. When hunting the pterosaur swarm, the youth silently prayed in front of the formation. There was no response. Trapped in the desert, the youth helplessly prayed to the Xingming Emperor. There was no response. After saving Lan Zhao in the oasis, the youth fell into self-doubt and prayed to the gods for help. There was no response. During the defense of the camp, the youth intentionally prayed loudly to deceive his companions. Because the gods still did not respond, the youth prayed that the secret of his beast transformation was almost exposed. The youth prayed that he had been bewitched by the blood core and was addicted to power. The valley collapsed. His companions transformed. Trapped in a desperate situation, the youth prayed. There was no response. There was no response. There was no response. In the spider forest. What's going on? His hands mutated and killed the leader of the blade spiders. When hunting the pterosaur swarm, his arms expanded. He killed the leader of the black iron flying squirrels with a dagger. Why is there a blood-red magic crystal in my heart? In the volcanic landscape, he killed the leader of the spear scorpions and defeated the rest of the scorpions. I've grown a shell. I've also grown a tail. Right, I can actually control the magic crystal on my own. Outside the small valley, after slaughtering an entire magical beast army, the youth completely transformed into a monster. He was satisfied. Ha ha ha, even if there are more magical beast army, what can they do to me? In the rainy training ground, Qin Kuei stepped on the youth's head and wantonly humiliated him. Then, he led a group of youths away. Strange, I'm very calm, as if I'm just a bystander. This humiliating memory resurfaced in his mind, but it did not bring him anger or hatred. After killing the brown monkey-tailed bear, the youth narrowly escaped death. ZD said happily, "Sir, your body is recovering very well. I know your concerns, but it doesn't matter. Don't worry, I'm here. I'll purify everything for you." The youth hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and charged forward. He rushed to the stairs of the 4th floor. "Stop. Zhenjin, what do you want to do? If you don't stop, you'll have to bear the consequences." The youth turned a deaf ear and sped up. Ka ka ka. A few bolts of lightning struck the youth and killed him on the spot. In the dark space, the youth's consciousness suddenly stabilized. He recalled everything. So, I'm not Zhenjin. In the next moment, he slowly opened his eyes. P.S. After this chapter was written, I suddenly had a new idea. I felt that it would be better to write it this way. But it was too troublesome. I'm sorry for being late, but this chapter is indeed of better quality. It should be updated with 10,000 words today. I want to say thank you to my friends who have always supported me. Chapter 208. Alchemy Factory, Central Tower, 3rd floor. A group of people cautiously stayed close to the mysterious blood-red magic core suspended in midair. It was only because of this place that they were able to stay safe. Apart from that, there were frequent lightning strikes. There was no pattern to where the lightning appeared or where it struck. This was the result of SCA, ZD, and the Tower Genie competing for the right to control the weather. The crowd was uneasy. Some people shouted the names of ZD or SCA, but there was no response. Damn it! Zhonggu was in the crowd, frowning. Even if he was not good at strategy, he felt that something was wrong. The battle between SCA and ZD seems to have subsided. Who won? Why is there no more movement? No matter who won, will they really rescue us? Zhonggu was worried about this. Many people had the same worry, but they had no choice. They were trapped here. If they rushed out, they were likely to be struck by lightning. They did not dare to get too close to the blood core. When the substitute was unconscious, some people boldly tried to take the blood core. As a result, they were hit by the blood-red light and turned into a pile of carbon powder. What should we do? Zhonggu glanced around. The big guy was unconscious. Sang Su hung his head. Sandao was confused. Lan Zhao knelt beside the body of the substitute. His eyes were completely unfocused. He had wanted to follow the substitute wholeheartedly. He wanted to use the substitute's glory and virtue to redeem himself for killing his own brother. However, the identity of the substitute was revealed. He knew that the person he had been following was just a fake. This fact struck him deeply, causing him to feel even more dispirited. The rest of the people remained silent. Their faces were very solemn. Many people sat on the ground in fear. They held their heads in their hands and seemed to have given up struggling. They were waiting for the result of the 4th floor. At this moment, Zhonggu suddenly heard someone scream. The voice was full of panic. Zhongji's pupils shrank. He almost thought that he was hallucinating. He saw the substitute slowly sit up. Isn't he dead? He's alive. He's alive again? Lord Zhenjin. Lan Zhao's mouth was wide open. He was the closest to the body double and was completely stunned. However, someone immediately denied Lan Zhao's title. No, he's not Zhenjin. He's just a substitute. Are you a human or an undead? Everyone was horrified. Those who were sitting on the ground stood up one after another. For a moment, everyone's eyes were focused on the young man. The young man sighed and half knelt on the ground. With his hands on his knees, he slowly stood up. He looked around and his gaze met everyone's. From the eyes of these people, he saw vigilance, fear, doubt, worry, and many complicated and indescribable emotions. The young man sighed again. This moment has finally arrived. In the past, people had adored him, respected him, loved him, and followed him willingly, but now they regarded him with more anxiety and suspicion. This was completely understandable. Because he was not Jinjin, he had deceived everyone. Even his resurrection was a lie that everyone had seen with their own eyes. Just like how ZD regretted, when Jinjin revealed his identity, the invisible loss was enormous. He's actually alive. He was clearly killed by lightning. Could it be that he faked his death? Could he be the hope of supporting ZD? SCA's expression changed slightly. Of course, the situation on the third floor could not be hidden from him. Following the resurrection of the substitute, the uneasiness in SCA's heart grew. He hurriedly informed Jinjin of this matter. Jinjin was also shocked. He can even resist lightning. What should we do if he rushes forward? Stabilize him. I'm about to succeed. As long as the portal is formed, we can leave with the divine weapon, the fairy tale of the mermaid. After we leave, there won't be any magic left to support a new portal. These people are dead. SCA sneered. Isn't there a mysterious crystal core on the third floor? A guardian knight asked. SCA shook his head. It's a pity, but there's no other way. We can only give it up. The lightning has been striking randomly, and the consumption of magic power is too great. We can't take the mysterious crystal away. Thus, under SCA's control, Jin's voice was quickly transmitted. Substitute. It's better that you're alive. You're my man. Maybe you don't know your true identity, but in fact, I'm Jinjin. As long as you continue to be loyal to me, I swear on my honor as a noble that I will forgive you and give you a chance to live. The substitute raised his eyes to look at the fourth floor, his expression slightly dignified. So, ZD has failed and you're standing on SCA's side? Jin's head was greatly shaken, and his mouth was wide open. For a moment, he could not understand how the substitute could find out the situation on the fourth floor in an instant. He was about to deny it, but the substitute spoke at this time. If ZD had the upper hand, she would have spoken herself and not arranged for you to speak. After muttering to himself for a moment, the substitute continued. She can't even speak now. I'm afraid she's already dead. Jinjin glanced at the young girl lying in a pool of blood at his feet. He was about to deny the substitute's guess, but at this time, SCA interrupted. She's not far from death. However, she still has a chance to live, as long as you cooperate. Cooperate? The substitute smiled and raised his eyebrows. How do you want me to cooperate with you? Let me kill these people so that you can take all the credit? Everyone was shocked and there was a slight commotion. Many people took a step back, and the fear and vigilance in their eyes increased. Of course, SCA was not fooled. He laughed. You don't have to provoke me. I'm a priest, and I'll do my best to take them all away from here. I need you to cooperate. I just want you to calm down and see the situation clearly. ZD has already fainted. I'm the only one left with the authority to form the portal. You've already lost. There's no need to have any other thoughts. You're guilty, but you don't deserve to die. Most of the blame lies not with you, but with ZD. In essence, you're just a chess piece that has been deceived. You don't believe that you don't hate ZD. She deceived you and made you work for her willingly. Although this woman is young, she knows the hearts of people. She's cunning and extremely dangerous. She's the president of the Wisteria Chamber of Commerce. The Wisteria Chamber of Commerce has been annexed by many nobles of the empire. She's dissatisfied with the empire, and the anger of revenge has made her lose her mind. Playing with fire will only result in self-destruction. If you still stand on her side and become our enemy, you'll be standing on the opposite side of the Knights Templar and the Empire's Emperor. This is very unwise. You were able to guess the situation on the 4th floor with just one sentence from Zhenjin. This is enough to prove that you're a smart young man. Do you still remember the situation when you confessed to me? Young man, I know that you have a kind heart and yearn for the light deep in your heart. You're guilty. This is undeniable. But the path of redemption is right under your feet. As long as you're willing to walk it, choose to walk it. In the name of a priest, I promise to redeem you. But the real redemption lies in you. You should be very clear about this. The young man chuckled. So, you're afraid? I came back from the dead, so you can't find out the truth about me. So you want to stabilize me? You seem to have lost control of the weather. If you could strike lightning, you wouldn't hesitate at all, just like how you struck me to death. Scab said sternly. Young man, you overestimate yourself. Don't be fooled by your own cleverness. Previously, I struck you because you wanted to rush to the 4th floor. It was obvious that you were plotting something against us. But before he finished, he was interrupted by the young man. So, you found that you couldn't strike me to death, so you want to stabilize me temporarily? You don't have enough divine power, right? Your condition should be very bad, right? Now that the magical beasts are no longer a threat, you didn't use divine power to deal with me. Instead, you want to stabilize me. You want to stall for time, secretly open a portal, and escape with the artifact, right? You don't seem to be worried that I'll chase after you. Could it be that the magic power in the magic power pool is not enough to open a second portal? After all, the lightning has been striking for such a long time. The magic power that was originally not much must have been consumed. Hearing the young man's guess, the surrounding people were in an uproar. Scab's face was ashen. Young man, I'm thinking for you. If you want to rush up, the lightning along the way may let you taste the taste of death again. Even if it doesn't, you coming to the 4th floor is just throwing yourself into a trap and receiving our warm welcome. But if you choose to believe me and choose the path of redemption, you may get a longer life and a brighter future. Ha ha! The young man sneered. You want me to believe you? How can I believe you? Just a while ago you struck me to death. And even longer ago you would rather choose to give away the artifact first than our companions. I will kill my way over, but it won't be just me. After saying that, the young man looked at the crowd around him. Everyone looked at him cautiously, without the slightest reaction. Chapter 209. The substitute stared at the crowd. I don't need to say more about the current situation. Actually, everyone is clear about it. Holding on to unrealistic fantasies, hoping that SCA Sand and Zhen Jin will come and save you, this possibility is too small. Everyone was still on guard, but their eyes flickered, showing slight hesitation. The youth's words were exactly what they were thinking. SCA Sand had only been with them for a short time, and his behavior was getting worse and worse. SCA Sand's desire for possession of artifacts was too strong, and he was very unreliable. But at this time, SCA Sand's laughter came from the 4th floor. Ha ha ha, substitute, you want to rush up to your death, that's fine. But do you still want to bewitch them to come with you to die? He's just guessing about the situation, so you can't be sure. You want to urge them to share the risk for you? Don't be fooled, everyone. The lightning is out of order, and it will take your lives. Even if you rush up, do you want to kill me and Jinjin? Kill a priest and a temple knight? You're making an enemy of the Empire. Even if you win and survive, you'll be wanted by the Sacred Empire. You can only live a life of wandering and fear. And once you're caught, what awaits you is a punishment more cruel than hanging. Of course, SCA Sand wouldn't sit idly by and watch the youth incite the others. His words made them even more hesitant. The substitute looked at Zhonggu. He needed support, and Zhonggu was obviously the most prestigious person among them. But at this time, the half-beast man frowned and didn't say anything. Jinjin laughed and mocked. Substitute, do you still think it's me? You're not a temple knight, and you're not a noble. Lowly blood flows in your body, so why should they follow you? You're just a substitute, a tool. You actually want to lead a group of people to deal with us? Did the lightning just now make you stupid? Zhenjin imitated Sca Sand, and after ridiculing the youth, he continued to shout to the others. He wants to use you. He can live, but you can't be deceived anymore. I'm a noble honorary mage, and you can all be saved. Trust me, I'm a holy knight, and he's just a substitute who's been deceiving you. The crowd began to stir. The substitute sighed inwardly. ZD had once said on the 4th floor that her understanding of the situation was correct. When Zhen Jin's identity was exposed, the losses were huge. People would not trust Zhen Jin. At the same time, they would be even more wary of the substitute. Now they were all looking at the substitute with twinkling eyes, suspecting that he had ulterior motives. In the past, you have been deceiving us. Who are you? What exactly do you want? Zhonggu finally opened his mouth. His brows were deeply furrowed and his voice was low. The crowd quieted down, waiting for the young man's answer. They had once obeyed the young man, and even fanatically, but now their faces were filled with indifference and suspicion. The young man took a deep breath. He still looked like Zhenjin, with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a handsome face. However, he was in a sorry state. His body was injured, blood-stained, and struck by lightning. There were many dark spots on his clothes and skin. Scab, Zhenjin, and the others are right. The young man spoke for the first time. The crowd almost thought that they had misheard. However, the young man repeated, "They're not wrong at all." He spoke slowly in a low, slightly hoarse, but honest manner. "I'm not Zhenjin. I'm not a genius. I don't have noble blood in me. I'm not a holy knight. I once had a beautiful woman by my side. I thought she was my fiancée. But she's not me. She's a schemer. I'm also not your leader, because I'm not qualified to lead you." The crowd became even quieter. If the young man denied or evaded these facts, he would receive even more suspicion and caution. But now, the crowd began to listen to him seriously. The young man then revealed a bitter smile. "Who am I? I used to ask myself this question repeatedly. But until now, I can't answer myself at all. My original memories have been erased. My current memories have been instilled by others, and they are still incomplete. Everyone knows their own names. I'm not as good as you because I don't even know my own name." The young man's sorrowful tone made everyone stare at him. "Even my own appearance is someone else's. I should have been modified and modified by the war traffickers. In fact, as you can see, I'm a beastman. At most, I'm a relatively special beastman." At this point, the substitute paused and took a deep breath, as if summoning his courage. "I'm a spear scorpion." As he spoke, he activated the magic core in his heart. Red light gushed out and transformed into a hard, dark, golden scorpion shell. At night in the desert, the spear scorpion youth ate the golden sesame stone, his heart jumping with joy. Delicious, delicious! This change made the crowd cry out in alarm. Most of them took a big step back. "I'm an acid green lizard." In the forest, the green lizard youth practiced his tail swing. In the end, he was injured. The next day, his buttocks and tailbone hurt. When the youth suddenly transformed into a tail, the crowd cried out in alarm again. Many people couldn't help but take a step back. "I'm also a bat monkey." The youth grew bat wings and bat ears. That night, the moonlight was like water. For the first time, the bat monkey youth heard countless beautiful sounds and felt the deep and moving beauty of nature. The crowd was continuously frightened. Their cries of alarm became softer. More people stood in place. Very few people subconsciously retreated. "I'm a monkey-tailed brown bear." The youth spread out his hands. The crowd saw the red light surge and disappear. Because the harsh environment always forced me to use this ability. Gradually, I realized that they were a part of my body, a part of me. I hated and avoided them, but I hated and despised myself. I sympathized with the big guy because I saw myself in him. When my companions go crazy, I'm most afraid. I'm especially afraid that one day in the future, I'll lose my mind and kill the people around me. The youth looked at Zhonggu and said honestly, "Just now, someone said that I lied to you." "Yes, I lied to you. If possible, I want to lie to you for the rest of my life. If possible, I'm willing to lie to myself. Because I don't want to be a monster. I don't want to be a beast, a substitute, a tool. I don't want to be ostracized, I don't want to be hated, I don't want to be discriminated against." Everyone's expression changed. The youth lowered his head and looked at his hands. He smiled bitterly. Actually, there were many flaws along the way, but why didn't I realize it until now? Because I wanted to lie to myself more. I wanted to lie to myself that I was a noble knight, with exquisite armor, riding a tall white horse. I wanted to lie to myself that I was a noble. I had my own castle, a manor for summer. I also had a beautiful and wealthy fiancée. I wanted to lie to myself that I was favored and appreciated by the gods. I wanted to prove that I had a firm belief. I failed. As you can see, I'm not. I'm nothing. I can only tell myself now, "Hey, you idiot, don't lie to yourself. Throw away your laughable, pitiful, and unrealistic fantasies. You're not. Recognize reality. You're not even a normal person. You're a transformed beast, a monster." At this point, the youth's eyes were clearly red. This was his true feelings. Everyone was silent. Everyone looked at the youth in silence. The wariness on their faces disappeared, and their vigilant expressions gradually disappeared. "Haha, you know yourself well, substitute." Zhen Jin's mocking voice came from the fourth floor. Everyone frowned, and many people showed a look of disgust. But then, the youth's voice suddenly rose, and he changed the topic. "Although I'm nothing, can't I even think about it? I'm not, can't I do it? I'm not, can't I try?" People's hearts trembled. Wishful thinking. SCA was extremely displeased, and he reprimanded, "When a person is born, their identity and status are determined. You have to recognize reality and know your place. Only then can you obtain the happiness that belongs to you. Driven by greed and desire, coveting things that don't belong to you, you will inevitably end up miserable and bleak. This is your greatest sin. You are the root cause of social unrest by having this kind of thinking. How can you have the face to say such things? Confess now, and you may be redeemed and forgiven." Everyone's frown deepened. The substitute ignored SCA and continued. "If there's a chance, I want to be a knight, I want to be a noble, I want to be a God's chosen person. I want all of these. Don't tell me you don't want them." Everyone was shocked. "If you don't want them, why did you go to the wilderness? Why did you travel long distances, cross the ocean, take great risks, and go to a place full of war?" "I'm a monster and I'm ostracized." "But what about you? Haven't you been ostracized? Haven't you been spurned and loathed? Haven't you been crushed by the rich and powerful? Haven't you been deceived by life? Haven't you been tortured by your dreams?" The youth suddenly asked a series of questions at an extremely fast speed, and everyone was silent. The youth took a deep breath, and his tone became slow. His gaze was deep as he said, "We are actually the same kind of people. We were born ordinary." The youth looked at Baya. Baya's face was flushed, and he looked emotional. "We were ostracized and loathed." The youth looked at the big man. The big man's eyelids trembled a few times. "We were betrayed by our family." The youth looked at Sang-Soo. The old scholar narrowed his eyes. "We were never treated fairly." The youth looked at the half-beast man. The half-beast man's breathing had already become heavy. "We also committed crimes, and we can't forgive ourselves." The youth looked at Lan Zhao. Since the youth woke up and stood up, Lan Zhao had been half kneeling on the ground. At this moment, he was looking up at him. We were spurned, exiled, wanted, and mocked by the masses. So what? Shouldn't we think about it? Shouldn't we do it? Reality has made us suffer so much, and life is so bad that it's unbearable. We can only become better if we think about it and do it. In fact, we've been trying. We were reduced to this island together, and we fought side by side. We hunted for food and water, and we were poisoned. We struggled in the desert, and we were chased by herds of beasts. We repelled the attack of the magical beast army in the camp. We traveled long distances, collecting materials along the way. We built a new ship in a small valley. We set sail, and we broke through difficult obstacles in the alchemy factory. The youth paced in front of the crowd, repeating the energy he had during this time. What are we doing for? The youth opened his arms and asked again. We want to live. But this is not enough. Far from enough. We want to live better. I've always thought so. I don't believe that you don't want to. Shut up, shut up. You devil, you're bewitching people. You're so rebellious. Your sins are too great. If you continue to do this, you won't be redeemed. Scab roared. The youth's words made him extremely angry. The youth smiled slightly. Devil? Yes, I am. He patted his chest and boldly admitted it. Then, he pointed at the crowd in front of him and said firmly, But I'm not the only one. Every one of us is a devil, a beast. We want to live well, we want to have abundant food and water, we want the status and glory of a superior person, we want divine weapons, we want monstrous achievements. So, you are also my Lord Priest. In an instant, Scab's pupils suddenly shrank. The youth shouted loudly, On this island we're lost, we're trapped, we're chased like dead dogs. We're so tired that we collapse, only for the hope that the new boat brings. Countless rainy nights, we pray together that tomorrow will be sunny. He then stomped his feet and pointed at the ground. This is the lost island of war. There are not only man-made magical beasts here, but also devils and monsters. We seem to have lost our direction in our lives, but in fact, we always know in our hearts how to move forward. Everyone, listen to the voice in your hearts. The youth excitedly patted his chest. What do you want? To obediently wait for death here? Do you want to surrender? To trust such a priest? To wag your tail like a dog and beg him to give you a chance to live? Then, he will swallow all the achievements, just like a master eating all the meat and throwing the bones to the dog. Do you want to chew? Bones, the big guy doesn't eat bones, the big guy eats meat. The big guy opened his eyes in a daze. He was woken up. He saw the youth and the others, but he didn't react for a moment. I have no right to lead you, but I want everyone to listen carefully to the voice in your hearts. What do you really want? To bow your heads and stop, or to rise up and resist? The crowd was dead silent. But this kind of dead silence was different from before. As long as one listened carefully, one could hear the thumping of the people's hearts, as well as their heavy breathing. Father, you're still alive! The big guy shouted. He stood up in ecstasy, but because he moved too quickly, his head was dizzy. He didn't stand firmly and half knelt on the ground. The substitute smiled at him, then looked at the crowd again. He didn't speak again. He was waiting. And then, he waited. Master, no matter who you are, you will always be my master. Lon Zeo shouted and stood up. My life has been saved by you, too many times. I'm willing to follow you, my lord, Baya said loudly. You are more suitable for the identity of a knight and a noble than Jinjin. I've always thought so. Sang Su said slowly and wiped his glasses. You are a hero, our hero. Mu Ban took out his crossbow. The people around him immediately moved a few steps away, subconsciously distancing themselves from him. Zhonggu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, This is the most moving speech I've ever heard before a battle. Let us once again fight side by side. The big guy stood up. Zhonggu walked forward, and Sandao followed closely behind. Lan Zhao, Song Su, Baiya. Everyone gathered together. They gathered again at the youth's side. But this time, the youth was no longer Zhenjin, no longer a holy knight, no longer a noble, no longer a god's chosen, but a monster. Chapter 210. Looking at the people gathered around him, the monstrous youth smiled. However, his current form was terrifying. He had no human form, and this smile was more like a sinister grin. He growled and pointed at the ceiling above his head. The Empire's flag is there, and the glory of the nobles is there. Perhaps there is also the blessing of the god. But there is a way for us to survive. There is a treasure we want. Charge with me! F***ck his mother. Roar! The monstrous youth raised his head and roared. He took the lead to rush out of the safe zone and into the raging lightning. Charge! The half-beastman followed closely behind. Father! The big guy took huge steps and ran, causing the ground to tremble. Kill! More and more people shouted as they rushed forward. Damn it! They were really bewitched by the substitute and all rushed over. Scab's face was ashen. This was undoubtedly the worst-case scenario. Zhenjin could not see the scene on the third floor, but he could hear the people's shouts. Now that he had Scab's confirmation, his expression suddenly became fearful and he hurriedly shouted, "What are you doing? You are rebelling. You want to be enemies with the Holy Knights and the Xingming Emperor's priests. Do you want to be wanted? Do you want to be executed? Lightning will strike you to death." As if to prove his words, in the next moment, someone in the monstrous youth's group was struck by lightning and died immediately. However, the people who had already expected this did not stop their charging footstep. There was not even a trace of delay. In fact, their charging speed had even increased by a few notches. They roared and shouted. At this moment they were like a group of wild beasts. There were more of them than humans. Why is it like this again? Scab flew into a rage out of humiliation. At this moment, he seemed to have returned to the past. He seemed to have seen the young guard who tried to elope with the city lord's daughter. He seemed to have seen the mob that rebelled against the city lord. You bunch of lowly people. Weeds, insects. Why can't you recognize reality? Without me, you would have been swallowed by the herd of beasts. I even brought you here and entered the alchemy factory. How can you repay kindness with enmity? The strong rule the weak, and the upper class rule the lower class. This is a matter of course. You want to resist? What can you resist? All of you will die in the end, all of you will die. As if responding to his words, the chaotic lightning continued to wreak havoc. Crack! Fat Tongue's eyelids twitched. He only reacted after the lightning had finished. Just a few steps away from him, one of his well-built companions had turned into charcoal. He had lost his life. Without fighting spirit or magic, he could not withstand the lightning strike. Even the substitute was like this, let alone the others. Run! Run! Fat Tongue kept cheering himself on. At the same time, he shouted in his heart, "President ZD, I'll avenge you." Even so, because of his obesity, he slowly fell behind. But the last one wasn't him. The old and frail Song Su tried his best to run, but he still fell behind. He helplessly looked at the distance between him and the main group. He panted and sighed bitterly in his heart. It's really difficult for an old man like me. The monster youth's companions fell one by one under the lightning. At this moment it was not a battle of strength, but pure luck. As a result, the battle seemed even more brutal. But no one retreated. This was because their charge this time was not for glory, but for survival. It was not to follow behind some big shot, but for themselves. The lightning was like a baptism, a spiritual baptism. As they got closer and closer to the fourth level, their faces revealed sinister, excited, fanatical, and tyrannical emotions. Beasts were hard to grasp. Hearing the footsteps of the crowd getting closer, Zhen Jin was completely terrified. Father! This is really bad. The lightning didn't seem to kill most of them. The most important thing is that the substitute is still alive. I told you, he's very strong, very terrifying. I saw with my own eyes that he slaughtered an entire leopard pack, an entire pack. That was a massacre and also a torture. To him it was extremely easy. It was definitely just a small show of strength. Run, quickly build the teleportation gate. Let's go together. Shut up. Trash. Scab's face was also sinister. He was furious, but at the same time frightened. But he had no choice. He still had no way to open the teleportation gate. If he could, he would have done it long ago. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. These damn sinners. I shouldn't have had any expectations for them. I shouldn't have saved them at that time. I shouldn't have given them the buffs and healing. Guardian Knights, go down and block the stairs to the 4th level. Don't let them rush up. I need time, just a little bit of time. The 4 Guardian Knights hesitated, which was rare. Zhen Jin had just said that the monster youth was very strong, but they were all flesh and blood. Moreover, the 4th level was the central hub of the central hub. It was not affected by the weather, but the 3rd level was randomly struck by lightning. The stairs to the 4th level was also covered by lightning. If we don't stop him, we're all finished. We're all finished. Zhen Jin saw the hesitant Guardian Knights and hurriedly shouted. Go, I won't let you die. Scab roared. At the same time, he used his authority to remove a key restriction. The 4 Guardian Knights were overjoyed. Without the slightest hesitation, they blocked the stairs together. The monster youth had been charging at the front. He was also the first to step on the stairs and collided with the 4 Guardian Knights. Bang! With a muffled sound, the monster youth was actually repelled and fell heavily on the tiles of the 3rd level. Battle Chi! The monster youth was heavily injured. His eyes were red and he quickly stood up. That's right, at this moment, the 4 Guardian Knights were shining with the radiance of Battle Chi. They all had the strength of a Black Iron rank. 4 Black Iron rank knights who could use Battle Chi formed an extremely strong line of defense. For a long time, low-level magic and Battle Chi were forbidden on the Mystic Island. High-level magic tools could only have a weak effect. But now, Scab seemed to have removed the restrictions on the 4th level, allowing the 4 Guardian Knights to use Battle Chi. Battle Chi. It was something that the monster youth had been searching for. Because Battle Chi could help him change qualitatively, it could help him to kill artificial magical beasts. But now, the enemy had mastered Battle Chi, and he was a monster restrained by Battle Chi. Black Iron Battle Chi, Black Iron equipment. The monster youth stroked the scorpion armor that had been cut. His scorpion armor was at the silver level, but without the support of Battle Chi, it was still cut open. But in the next moment, the core of his heart surged with magical energy and quickly restored the scorpion armor. Seeing this scene, the 4 Guardian Knights' pupils shrank, and their hearts trembled. Monster! The monster youth laughed and rushed up the stairs again. The 4 Guardian Knights joined forces. They could condense their Battle Chi into one and fight the enemy together. The monster youth was once again pushed back by the combined Battle Chi of the 4 knights, and he even spat out a mouthful of blood. This was Battle Chi. It was a magical power that was on par with magic and divine art. Dad, let me do it. The big guy ran over in big strides. Seeing the monster youth fall on the ground, he was furious. Be careful. Protect your vital parts. The monster youth's face changed, and he quickly reminded. But the big guy still held his head high and stepped on the stairs. He punched with both fists and opened his chest. You're courting death. The 4 Guardian Knights were furious. 2 of them used their killing moves. Their swords were strengthened by Battle Chi, and they pierced the big guy's heart. The other 2 raised their shields to protect themselves from the big guy's attack. If the big guy's heart was pierced by the Battle Chi, he would definitely die. At the critical moment, the monster youth arrived. He grabbed the big guy's clothes from behind and pulled him back. The big man was pulled back, and the swords of the apologetic knights pierced his chest, but did not hurt his heart. The big guy rolled on the ground, and the monster youth was immediately revealed. At the same time, Zhonggu, who arrived later, jumped up and stepped on the big guy's head. He jumped into the air and quickly approached the fourth floor. This was another cooperation between the young man and Zhonggu. When the big guy climbed up the stairs, the young man saw Zhonggu, who was the third one to arrive. Just by looking at each other, they decided on this strategy. Both of them had profound fighting skills, and they had fought side by side many times. This was the telepathy between excellent warriors. For a time, the monster youth was charging below with his head held high, and Zhonggu was trying to jump over everyone's head to the fourth floor. Don't even think about it. At the critical moment, the 4 guardian knights also showed a quick response. 3 of them dealt with the monster youth, and the other one intercepted the half-orc in the air. The young man was repelled again. The effect of fighting aura on one's combat strength was too great. Zhonggu was also in a dangerous situation. Although he was wearing steel armor and a helmet, one of his arms did not have such protection. The guardian knight responsible for intercepting Zhonggu was very clear about his weakness. The sword in his hand cut toward the relatively unprotected arm of Zhonggu. "Let me cut off your arm to teach you a lesson," the guardian knight sneered. The next moment blood splashed. Zhongji's arm was really cut off, and he fell on the stairs. However, the guardian knight's face was pale because Zhonggu, who had suffered a serious injury and lost an arm, had officially stepped into the fourth floor. "You did it on purpose." After regaining his senses, the guardian knight's face was full of regret and shock. In the confrontation just now, Zhonggu obviously came prepared. He seized the weakness of the guardian knight's movement and smoothly jumped to the fourth floor. If there was no chance, he would create one himself. The wound of the broken arm was painful, and blood flowed out. Zhonggu was originally half kneeling on the ground, but now he slowly stood up. After losing an arm, his body was still as motionless as a mountain. "How dare you fool me?" The guardian knight who was deceived was furious. "Kill him, he's just a black iron," Scab shouted. He was at the crucial moment of forming the portal. The 2 guardian knights quickly left the team and rushed toward Zhonggu. Zhongji's mouth was slightly raised, and his face was incomparably calm, as if the one who lost an arm was not him at all. His eyes were cold, and with a touch of arrogance, he calmly said, "Who told you that? I'm just a black iron?" Boom. The next moment, the silver battle chi radiance gushed out. Everyone on the fourth floor widened their eyes. Silver? Boom. The 2 guardian knights rushed toward Zhonggu, and then flew back at an even faster speed. Not just silver. There's a trace of gold in his battle chi. Ridiculous. This half-orc is actually a Silver Peak warrior. Chapter 211. Zhongji's display of his true strength shocked almost everyone present. Even though the monster youth had already guessed it, he was still surprised. "Damn it! What should we do now?" The 4 guardian knights were panicking. The strength of the half-beastmen had greatly shaken their morale. However, they all had profound combat skills and had been nurtured to be loyal to the sacred church. The 4 guardian knights were closely united as they guarded the staircase. One of them was watching the staircase to prevent people from rushing up from the 3rd floor. The other 3 turned around and faced Zhonggu with a serious expression. "Father, quickly open the portal." At this moment Zhen Jin shouted. His heart was beating fast. "Don't let my substitute rush up again. He's also a silver rank." Zhen Jin's voice was trembling. Previously, he was complacent that his substitute had such strength, but now it had become something he was extremely worried about. He didn't lay his hands on the dying ZD. He began to realize that he had to find some protection for himself. If ZD was alive, she might be able to threaten the substitute. After all, ZD had already fallen in love with the substitute. He didn't believe that the substitute had no feelings for her. Damn it, I was too heavy-handed with her just now. At this moment, Zhenjin felt extremely remorseful. At the same time, he felt resentful because of the humiliation. I actually have to wag my tail and beg a substitute. I have to give my fiancée to him in order to live. I have to get through this crisis first. When I return, I'll ask for help from my family and the Knights Templar. I must take revenge for this. Zhen Jin's heart was filled with hatred as he looked at Scab, who was not far away. The two of them looked at each other for a moment. Trash. The two of them secretly scolded each other in their hearts. Zhen Jin was angry because Scab hadn't opened the portal yet. Scab was angry because Zhen Jin was cowering at the side. He could obviously use his black iron dochi, but he was still watching from the sidelines. The situation had changed too quickly, and it was extremely disadvantageous for Scab. Zhonggu was too callous. He was so callous that he would rather sacrifice one of his arms to rush up to the 4th floor as soon as possible. The moment he revealed his peak silver cultivation, he became the leader of the situation. Zhongji's choice was very correct and wise. If he had been a few breaths later, Scab would have completely formed the portal and escaped with the fairy tale of the mermaid. But now, Scab did not dare to open the portal. There was no point in activating it. Zhonggu would stop anyone who had the wishful thinking of escaping through the portal. Why didn't the lightning strike him to death? However, the reason why he was able to come here was because of the deceptive words of the substitute. Damn it, what should I do? Scab had no divine power to speak of. The lie detection technique he used on ZD was his last divine art. Looking at his miserable appearance, one could tell that he had really been squeezed dry. Zhen Jin, hurry up and stop Zhonggu. I'm going to open the portal, Scab shouted. Then, he instructed the other 4 apologetic knights, stand there and guard. Don't worry about me. Zhonggu won't dare to attack me. If I die, no one will be able to open the portal. Zhonggu frowned slightly. He also saw ZD's situation. What SCA-san said was not wrong at all. He was probably the only one who could open the portal. He was the key to everyone's escape. Zhonggu. At this moment, the monstrous youth's roar was transmitted. He once again launched an attack. Zhonggu did not hesitate. He immediately cooperated with the youth and rushed towards the 4 apologetic knights. The apologetic knights were trapped in a predicament. Come on, you monster! The apologetic knight in charge of intercepting the youth shouted, encouraging himself. The 3 apologetic knights facing Zhonggu pursed their lips and stood side by side. They felt a great pressure. Don't worry, he's only one person. There are 4 of you. He's also seriously injured. Stop him, we have hope. Before Scab could finish his words, he saw Zhonggu use his fighting skills. The moment they collided, the outcome was decided. The apologetic knights were defeated. 2 of them were even blasted down the stairs. Once they fell down the stairs, they could no longer use their fighting skills. The monstrous youth rushed past them. The spider's blade cleanly slit one of the apologetic knight's neck. The other apologetic knight's forehead was directly pierced by the sharp scorpion tail. Because of Zhongji's support, the youth smoothly rushed to the 4th floor. But soon after, his expression changed drastically. Intense pain suddenly assaulted him. The pain was so intense that even someone as tough as him almost lost his mind. He cried out in pain and involuntarily knelt on the ground. His whole body trembled. What's wrong? Zhonggu was shocked and worried. He immediately abandoned the remaining 2 apologetic knights and rushed to support. In a flash, the youth understood the problem. He tried to reduce the mutation and the pain quickly reduced. After he only kept the scorpion shell and the blade, The pain was finally reduced to a point where he could temporarily endure it. The magic core can change my bloodline. But the bloodline I changed is not perfect. It comes from the modified beast. And these modified beasts are actually half-finished products. They can only exist in a forbidden environment. My mutation can be seen as a more prominent humanoid beast. So when I reached the 4th floor, there was no forbidden environment. My body almost collapsed. The youth took a deep breath and quickly stood up. I can still continue to fight, he said to Zongo. Zongo nodded. Seeing the youth's transformation, he also guessed the reason. The next moment, the youth's body surged with a silver luster. Silver fighting skills! I can finally feel the fighting skills. The youth sighed incomparably at this moment. At the beginning of his awakening, he desperately wanted to be able to use fighting skills. But he did not expect that in the end, he would be able to feel the fighting skills here. It seemed that the reason why he could not feel it before was completely due to the forbidden environment. Seeing the silver radiance on the youth's body, Zhen Jin directly threw the thin sword silver lightning to the ground. He raised his head and sighed, I surrender. You all know my identity. I ask for the treatment of a holy temple knight and a noble. My family will pay a sufficient ransom for me. Trash! SCA once again scolded Zhen Jin. The group of beasts suddenly roared together. They gave up on fighting among themselves and rushed to the 3rd floor, continuing to kill their way to the 4th floor. You will all die. SCA did not choose to open the portal. Instead, he completely took control of the artificial beast. The monstrous youth and Zongo frowned. Father, do you know what you are doing? Zhen Jin was stunned and immediately roared. I am SCA. Even if I die, I will not lower my head to you lowly people. SCA responded to Zhen Jin with an even louder roar. You trash, you don't deserve to be a noble. The 100 Needles clan will be destroyed because of you. Then, the bald priest, who was so old that there was no sign of life in him, stared at the monstrous young man and the half-orc with extremely venomous eyes. He mocked, Come on, kill me, which one of you can open the portal? Ah! If you don't kill me, you will be drowned by the beasts and die with me. Not good, this person is crazy. The youth and Zongji's hearts sank at the same time. Facing an enemy who was not afraid of death and wanted to perish together with them, the youth and Zonggu felt that this was a thorny problem. What should we do? We can't threaten him. Also, the reserve of the mana pool is getting smaller and smaller. I have to quickly think of a solution. Scab laughed heartily. You can give up on that idea. To tell you the truth, the reserve of the mana pool is completely dried up. Before, perhaps there was a small possibility of opening the portal and letting a few people escape. Now there is no hope at all. This is the result of daring to offend us. Dregs sink to the bottom of the sea with this island. But you have to die too. Zhen Jin was very puzzled. Essia looked at him with extreme disdain. Everyone will die, the only difference is how they die. Although I will die in battle. I will die in battle at the last moment, and I have never given up on the pursuit of victory. I have lived up to my identity. I am the defender of the glory of the Empire. I have adhered to my belief. And you, coward, you have brought shame to your clan, to the Knights Templar. What a pity, if this monster had hesitated a little, it would have been a different situation. But now, perishing together is the greatest victory I can fight for. SCA closed his eyes, the corners of his mouth forming a trace of a smile. He had already begun to quietly wait for the arrival of death. Plop! Zhen Jin fell to the ground, his face pale and cold sweat dripping down. It's over, it's over. I'm going to die here. He was despondent and disheartened. Zonggus smiled bitterly. I didn't expect to come here and still end up like this. Forget it, we have already done our best, haven't we? He spoke very freely, but his tightly clenched fists revealed the unwillingness in his heart. The youth did not speak, he ran towards ZD. ZD, who was on the verge of death, was severely injured. The youth knelt on the ground, his hands touching her body, and immediately a red light surged out. If the magic energy can mutate me, can it also mutate others? As long as ZD mutates the meat of the life-enhancing white rhinoceros, she will be safe. Then, the youth's attempt failed. Perhaps there was such a possibility, but he had never practiced it, and did not know what the key was. The red light was unable to leave his body, let alone spread to ZD's body. Damn it! At this moment, the youth was also at his wit's end. Is this the end result? Several months later, on the calm surface of the sea, a strong light suddenly flashed. A huge teleportation array covering a radius of tens of meters appeared out of thin air, and then disappeared. 3 human powerhouses floated in the air, looking down at the sea. They were all wearing bright red robes, iron gloves, iron boots, and iron masks. On the front and back of their blood-red robes, there was a platinum 9-pointed star. They were from the Bloodbath Sanctions Institution. Is this the place? The leader's life force had reached the legendary rank. I'm sure. The other powerhouse had a long black braid, and exuded the life force of a gold rank. The man's voice was hoarse. His scent is here. He must have been here before. The leader nodded. Then let me take a good look. The next moment, he activated a divine spell to turn back time. This divine spell could replay the voices and images of the past, directly transmitting them to the depths of the leader's heart. The leader's body suddenly trembled. This tremble was noticed by the other two, and they were shocked. They had never seen their leader lose his composure like this before. The next moment, the legendary powerhouse spoke in a low voice. The divine spell's effect is very bad. Some kind of powerful force is preventing me from continuing to investigate. I can only barely hear some sounds. I heard the terrifying roars of the beast horde. I heard the reprimand of a priest of the sacred emperor. I heard the surrender of a noble. I heard the desperate roar of the fire dragon king before it died. The other 2 powerhouses were shocked and couldn't help but exclaim. What? Sir, what do you mean? That's right, the missing 3rd squad of our institute was all lost here. There used to be an island here. Confusion Island. This used to be the base of the war traffickers. The 2 powerhouses who received the information exclaimed again. Grandmaster Alchemist War Traffickers? A battle broke out here. The Confusion Island sank and everyone died. The leader wasn't sure about this, as the divine spell's effect had already reached the end. He calmed himself down and continued to listen. Soon, he heard some people talking intermittently and vaguely. It's time for us to leave. If we're talking about Captain, I only acknowledge you. No, to be precise, we all acknowledge you, sir, but I'm just a beast. No, no one would think that. You're the one who led us, you're our recognized leader. You're a true knight. The conversation was like the wind in a dream, quickly dissipating. The leader sighed, knowing that he wouldn't be able to find anything else after this. The divine spell also stopped. There are still people who survived. They most likely obtained a large amount of spoils of war, the war traffickers' inheritance. The leader said. Who are they? The other 2 hurriedly asked. The leader shook his head and regretfully replied. I can't be sure. I can only be sure that a leader has emerged among them, and this leader is very prestigious. If even you can't be sure, sir, I'm afraid no one else in the Empire would be able to find out more information. The other 2 were very disappointed. The leader scoffed. The fog of darkness shrouded for a while, but it will eventually be illuminated by the light. These people can't be hidden anymore, they'll show themselves one day. Put them on the wanted list first. But the situation right now was that the leader didn't even know their names. Then let's use a codename. The leader pondered for a bit, then continued. Codename: Beast Knight, end of Volume 1. P.S. Tomorrow will be the summary at the end of the volume, there won't be any updates to the main text. Tomorrow, we'll have to fix some typos and some text errors. Chapter 212. What's wrong with me? ZD looked at her body in shock. Her hands and feet were a translucent grayish-black color. And on the ground, her body was no longer breathing. Because she had lost all her blood, her skin was incomparably pale. So, I've become a ghost? ZD suddenly understood. At this time, Sang-soo asked, Miss ZD, have you also practiced necromancy before? ZD was slightly stunned. Only then did she recall her days in the Magic Academy. Once, there was a suitor who gave her forbidden knowledge, a soul-devouring spell. At that time, she was driven crazy by her bleak prospects and despairing aptitude. Hoping to get lucky, she practiced the soul-devouring spell. In the end, before she could use it, she saw that suitor being killed on the spot because he practiced necromancy. Although ZD was also tested, perhaps because she had only practiced necromancy for a short time and her cultivation was very shallow, she wasn't discovered. Because of this, ZD was greatly frightened and learned a huge lesson. She never touched necromancy magic again. I didn't expect that in the end it was this necromancy that saved me indirectly, ZD muttered and nodded to Sang-soo. Sang-soo understood. As expected. He wasn't surprised that ZD could come into contact with necromancy knowledge. Necromancy was one of the major schools of magic. It was founded by Yushin. When Yushin first started, he only taught it to a few apprentices. Necromancy had always been hidden in a hidden environment, slowly developing. Finally, one day the necromancy school was exposed. The world was shocked, and the gods were terrified. The necromancy school targeted life and was naturally loathsome. The necromancy school touched on the secrets of the soul, which was a forbidden area for the gods. It immediately attracted the attention of the god. As a legend, Yushin had no choice but to hide and wander. He became the enemy of almost everyone, including the gods. And as one of the methods of resistance, Yushin began to spread the knowledge of the necromancy school everywhere. The undead faction had its own unique advantages, allowing many people who were limited by their aptitudes and talents to see new hope. For a time, necromancers emerged one after another. This greatly diverted the attention of the major forces, and at the same time, allowed the true elites of the necromancers to hide better. Many thanks, Sang-soo. If it was just me, I definitely wouldn't have been able to condense my soul and transform into a specter. ZD expressed her gratitude. Also, many thanks to you for killing Scab. I once made a contract with the Tower Spirit, and I have to kill the priest to complete the contract. After the contract was completed, ZD's spirit was no longer burdened. She finally got rid of the last shackles and turned her soul into a spirit. ZD. The substitute walked towards the specter girl. He had a complicated expression on his face as he slowly reached out his hand. However, he touched nothing but air. My lord. ZD stared blankly as her fingertips brushed past the youth's palm. Her heart was filled with emptiness and disappointment. However, the two of them continued to look at each other affectionately. Ahem. Sang-soo coughed twice and couldn't help but remind them, both of you, don't forget that we are still in a dangerous situation. We should find a way to escape from this island. After being reminded by Sang-soo, the young boy and girl suddenly reacted and quickly averted their entangled eyes. ZD's face was serious. This is the central tower of the underground war dealer's alchemy factory. It is the most important place. I will continue to erode the tower spirit and seize the authority here. Let's see if we can find a way to escape from here. It is very likely that we can find elemental crystal stones in the war dealer's warehouse and use them to replenish the mana pool. With enough magic power, we will be able to teleport away. Zonggu walked over. He had lost an arm, and the wound had been hastily bandaged. Actually, we still have a choice, and that is the Flame Dragon King. If it doesn't work, we can negotiate with it. We will give up a part of the credit and let it help. This can only be considered as the final solution, right? We have seriously offended it before. It is the legendary Dragon King. Will it care about ants like us? Maybe we can help it get out. Without us, I think it will get out. Let's not talk about anything else. If we want to negotiate with it, we have to at least get rid of those puppets, right? Everyone whispered to each other and discussed spiritedly. In the process of Scab being tortured to death, the teleportation door disappeared. The lightning on the third floor was still striking disorderly. There were still a large number of artificial magical beasts on the second and first floors, killing each other. Everyone could only find another way out. ZD began to seize the authority again. The process was very smooth and the progress was extremely fast. Without Scab's obstruction, and the tower spirit seems to have disappeared, I am unimpeded all the way. ZD quickly obtained all the teleportation authority, all the authority to control the weather, and so on. She first stopped the lightning, then controlled the smell valve, and took control of the artificial magical beasts under the tower in her own hands. Under the gaze of the beasts, a part of the crowd left the central tower. The substitute and several others stayed on the fourth floor, protecting ZD as she continued to seize the authority. The mana pool has been controlled by me, but there is not much mana left. I am obtaining the authority to control the alchemy puppets. There are many warehouses here, and it is very likely that there are elemental crystal stones hidden here. Good news came out from ZD's mouth one by one. After leaving the central tower, Zhonggu and the others split up and went to the warehouses that might contain elemental crystal stones. Along the way, they encountered alchemy puppets or magic traps, which were all controlled by ZD using her authority. Everyone moved forward quickly, and it was like a flat plane. When everyone was in place, the metal door of the warehouse opened by itself with a roar. There are ores here. This is alchemy material that has been processed. There is arcanite. These seem to be part of the alchemy puppet. I understand, these are the components of the alchemy puppet. Good news, I found several boxes of magic scrolls. There were many healing scrolls among the magic scrolls, and they were immediately sent back to the central tower. On the fourth floor of the central tower, the wounded used the scrolls to heal themselves. Zhongji's broken arm was temporarily reattached and could not be used in a short time, but it was still bandaged. ZD's corpse also received strong treatment. Sang-Soo shook his head slightly. No, her heart has completely stopped beating, and she has been dead for a long time. Conventional treatment can only make the corpse intact. Her internal organs have begun to rot. We must freeze her to slow down the speed of decay. The magic scrolls had the power of frost, and as a necromancer, Sang-Soo was also very good at handling corpses. Thus, ZD's body was wrapped in ice, forming an ice coffin. Rumble, the earthquake happened again. Hurry up. If this continues, the Fire Dragon King may break free in the next moment. We should monitor the lava battlefield. The exploration team became more and more anxious, and they raced against time to continue their exploration. Finally, they found their target. This should be the warehouse where the elemental crystal stones were stored. However, to everyone's disappointment, this warehouse had been emptied. Along the way, there were some elemental crystal stones left on the ground. This passage leads directly to the mana pool. It seems that the act of moving elemental crystal stones to replenish the mana pool has already been carried out by the tower spirit. If we can't replenish our mana, how can we get out? Search. Keep looking. Maybe there's an alchemy airship in the warehouse of the war traffickers, who knows? Everyone suffered a blow, but they did not give up hope. Another door was opened by ZD using her authority. This warehouse was almost filled with a kind of translucent white crystal pillar. Everyone could barely distinguish it, and found that this white crystal pillar was not an original ore, but a kind of alchemy product. ZD was very happy with this discovery. It's the tower spirit. To be precise, it's the carrier of the tower spirit. It's like the relationship between the soul and the body. ZD did not want to stay on the 4th floor of the central tower anymore. She had already obtained all the authority she could get, and she could use these authorities wherever she went. Soon, she personally came to the location of the white crystal pillar. There are a lot of data and memory banks in here, recording the secrets of the war traffickers and this alchemy factory, ZD said, and began to use her mind to invade. The substitute was also excited. He thought of the magic core in his heart. These crystal pillars in front of him must contain relevant information. I found the structural diagram of the alchemy factory. There are a total of 3 elemental crystal stone warehouses. Wait, this is the record table. The elemental crystal stones have been used to replenish the mana pool. ZD kept reporting. The news made people happy for a while, and worried for a while. Sandow urged, "Quick, take a look. Is there a parking area for airships?" ZD shook her head. "There is no such facility." "Wait, what is this?" "I found the travel records of the war traffickers and their apprentices. An alchemy ship. There is an alchemy ship hidden on the island, and the war traffickers occasionally use it to go out." ZD's discovery made everyone cheer. They had no way to replenish the mana pool, and they did not find an alchemy airship, but an alchemy ship was enough to carry their hope of escape. Warning, warning! The carrier of the tower spirit is being mentally invaded. Intruder has been found. Authority has been lost. The voice of the tower spirit sounded again, making everyone very nervous. But the voice of the tower spirit immediately became intermittent, and it kept checking itself, and found that the authority was in the hands of ZD. It seems that the tower spirit is really not going to make it. Everyone had just breathed a sigh of relief when they suddenly heard the voice of the tower spirit again. Unable to counterattack, the countdown to self-destruction has begun, and the countdown to destroying the database has begun. Everyone turned pale with fright. The towering crystal pillar in front of them also began to disintegrate. On its surface, countless cracks spread rapidly, and the originally solid crystal quickly disintegrated, turning into a powder that scattered on the ground. The countdown has begun. This is the last means of self-destruction. As long as it is not a war trafficker, no one can stop it. ZD cried out. Chapter 213. Let's run. Someone held his head. Don't worry, we still have some time. Sang-Soo remained calm. ZD subconsciously took a deep breath, her eyes glittering with the light of gold coins. Time is limited. Not only do we have to leave here alive, but we also have to do our best to get the most out of this place. There's a backup vessel for the tower spirit in warehouse number 12. Move it over. Quick. Everyone immediately moved. The backup vessel for the tower spirit was a huge crystal ball, which was as tall as a person. The crystal ball was pushed to the crystal pillar, and under ZD's control, the transfer of the tower spirit began. At this time, the crystal pillar had already collapsed to half of its original size. The tower spirit was in such a bad state that it couldn't resist at all and was transferred to the crystal ball. ZD looked at the crystal pillar that was about to collapse and was as thin as a bamboo pole. The memory and data vault accompanied the tower spirit, but only a third of it was transferred, and a third of it collapsed. There's still a third of it here. It's a pity that this information is too valuable and we can't keep it. Can you investigate the truth about this island? Sang-Soo asked. Of course. ZD immediately moved, probing the crystal pillar with her psychic power. The island was indeed the base camp of the war traffickers. The war traffickers were caught off guard by the sudden attack of the Scarlet Ray Sanctions team. They barely managed to seal the Flame Dragon King, and finally died under the legendary weapon. The Scarlet Ray Sanctions team's Saint Realm experts were all killed. Both sides had almost perished together. The mysterious treasure on the third floor is called the Blood Core. The war traffickers used it together with the sapphire golden coffin on the first floor to mass-produce artificial demon beasts. ZD's words made the teenager's heart skip a beat. The teenager was just about to ask ZD about his real identity, but after hearing this, he immediately changed his mind and asked anxiously, "Is there any other information about the Blood Core? How did the war traffickers create it? How do they control it?" "I'm still investigating." ZD frowned, concentrating. But at this moment, with a bang, the crystal pillar completely shattered into a pile of white dust and fell to the ground. Everyone was speechless. A few seconds later, ZD was the first to react. "Quick, gather everything you can. The raw materials still need to be refined. Abandon. The components of the puppet are too cumbersome, we don't need them. Do you still remember the shipping plaza? There's the ammunition we need there. The Blood Core and the fairy tale of the mermaids must be brought along. Don't forget about the boxes of magic scrolls and this tower spirit carrier. Quick, 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 let's move." The ghost girl let out a high-pitched scream and directly took over the position of the substitute, commanding everyone in a domineering manner. Everyone quickly took action. A large number of treasures were gathered together. Zhong-gu frowned. "Wait, don't forget about the Flame Dragon King. After the explosion, the array would definitely be destroyed. If it escapes, it will be disadvantageous to us. Even if we have a ship, we won't be able to run far." ZD said, "The explosion of the alchemy factory is very unusual. Not only can it completely destroy the factory and the Confusion Island, but it also causes spatial distortion, with spatial banishment and other effects. In other words, the ruins and debris after the explosion will be banished by the space, and nothing will be left at the original site." Zhong-gu asked again, "Can the explosion kill the Flame Dragon King?" ZD frowned and hesitated. "I don't know. After all, I was only a black iron when I was alive." "Let me talk to it," the substitute said. The substitute said, "We killed the priest of the sacred church and captured a noble heir. If we can negotiate with it successfully, maybe it can let us get away with it. But the premise is that we have to share a lot of the spoils." Everyone's eyes lit up. "If we can be exonerated, that would be the best." "Yeah, who wants to be wanted by the Empire?" "Sir, I'll go with you." The substitute shook his head. "No, I can go and come back quickly by myself. Most of the alchemy puppets in the lava battlefield are direct subordinates of the war dealers. They can't be controlled with the factory's authority. It's very dangerous. ZD, I need you to command these artificial magic beasts and buy me time and space to talk with the Flame Dragon King." "No problem," ZD immediately responded. The substitute entered the lava battlefield once again. Taking advantage of the fact that the artificial magic beasts and the alchemy puppets were entangled, the teenager hid in a remote corner and took out the second blood core from his chest under the cover of a huge rock. Such an important divine artifact-level treasure would naturally be personally safeguarded by him. The strong urge to devour in his heart made him instinctively activate the blood core in his heart without any warning. It emitted a red light. The red light spread to the second blood core. The latter quickly melted and turned into a ball of red light. The next moment, all the red light retracted. The two blood cores merged into one. The blood core in Zhen Jin's heart faintly swelled. The strong urge to devour that had been secretly torturing the teenager also completely disappeared. Blood core. There was no time for the substitute to check the new changes in the blood core, because the artificial magic beasts had already gained the upper hand. The teenager immediately appeared and ran to the edge of the lava pool. "Flame Dragon King!" He shouted loudly and began to negotiate with the Flame Dragon King. The negotiation didn't go well. Seeing the teenager return, the Flame Dragon King immediately understood that the war dealer was dead. As arrogant as it wasn't willing to give the credit to these cheap bugs. From its point of view, this was very reasonable. The war dealer's death was caused by the powerhouses of the Bloodlight Judgment Court. The young knights group just happened to be there at the right time. And if it wasn't for the fact that he had no other choice, the teenager wouldn't have returned to negotiate with it. You dregs, you have no choice. You want to negotiate with this king? Ha ha ha, ridiculous. On what basis? On the basis that you're free now? Without my help, you'll all die. Even if you don't help me escape, I can still break free from this alchemy array. At that time, you'll have to face my wrath. Now, I order you to open the alchemy array and allow you to kneel and beg for mercy. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I'll spare some of your lives. Ha! The negotiation with the Flame Dragon King had completely failed. The substitute was helpless and worried. If he didn't handle it well, if he didn't kill the Flame Dragon King with his self-destruction, the latter would definitely become the death god of the exploration team. What should he do? The blood core once again had an impulse of desire. But this time, the desire wasn't as strong as before. The teenager's heart skipped a beat. Maybe, the blood core can, following the guidance of his intuition, he began to use the blood core. The red light emitted and penetrated the alchemy array, gradually covering the Flame Dragon King's huge dragon body. What are you doing? Ha ha, you want to harm me? Lowly bug, you can't imagine the greatness of a legend. More than a minute later. No. You can't do this to me. You damned bug. Alright. I admit that you have the right to negotiate with me. We can have a good talk. The teenager's face was cold. No, there's no need for us to negotiate. The red light completely covered the Flame Dragon King's body, and quickly melted it. The Flame Dragon King roared angrily, and unleashed endless curses on the young knight. Then, it disappeared. It completely turned into a huge red ball of light and a large amount of carbon powder. The carbon powder was quickly swallowed by the large amount of magma, and the red ball of light shrank back and converged into the brand new blood core in the teenager's heart. I can actually use this blood core to kill a legendary existence. The teenager was shocked by this result. Leaving behind a small number of man-made magical beasts and alchemy puppets that were still fighting, the teenager rushed back to the others. The negotiation failed, he said. This result made everyone's heart skip a beat, but they weren't too surprised. Now we can only hope that self-destruction can get rid of it. At the very least, we have to banish it to another dimension. Everyone didn't know that the Flame Dragon King was already dead. The substitute opened his mouth, but in the end, he sighed in his heart. In the end, he didn't reveal the secret of the blood core. Everyone took the treasures and squeezed into the 3 underground rail cars. The rail cars sped forward, and soon, they stopped at an underwater pier. Here, they saw the alchemy ship. It looked like a big blue goldfish. It's called Deep Sea Monster Fish. ZD had full authority, so she easily led everyone through the boarding passage and entered Deep Sea Monster Fish. Through the detection device of Deep Sea Monster Fish, the teenager made a discovery. So this is the desert oasis. He remembered that he had once fought a fierce battle here, and used the green lizard's eyes to observe the existence of the fat ball flying fish. At the same time, he also saw a terrifying heat source at the bottom of the lake. This heat source turns out to be deep-sea monster fish. Deep-sea monster fish dove all the way down through the underground river and quickly escaped from Confusion Island. 10 nautical miles away, Confusion Island self-destructed. The huge explosion shook heaven and earth, stirring up a monstrous column of water. Soon, the space shattered and the seawater disappeared. The exploded corpses of countless man-made magical beasts and the ruins of the island were all dragged into the space black hole and banished to another dimension. In Deep Sea Monster Fish, everyone watched anxiously. They waited until the space recovered and the sea calmed down, but they didn't see the Flame Dragon King appear. It seems that it's either dead or banished. Whoa! We survived. Awesome, we did it. For a moment, the entire deep-sea monster fish was filled with wild joy. Ghost ZD, on the other hand, wobbled and floated down to the floor. ZD, what's wrong? The teenager was very nervous. She needs to rest immediately. It's like she needs to sleep after being tired. In the end, she's just a newborn ghost. Fortunately, her body is still here, so she can rest for a while, Sang-soo said. Hearing Sang-soo's words, the teenager relaxed. ZD, rest well. I have a lot to talk to you about. Me too. The girl ghost caressed the teenager's face, but they passed by each other. She returned to her body in the ice coffin and fell into a deep sleep. A few months later, on the calm surface of the sea, there was a sudden flash of intense light. A huge teleportation formation covering a radius of dozens of meters appeared out of thin air and then disappeared. 3 human elites floated in the air, looking down at the sea. They were all wearing bright red robes, iron gloves, iron boots, and iron masks. On the front and back of their blood-red robes, there was a platinum 9-pointed star. They were from the Scarlet Light Sanctions Institution. This is the place? The leader's life aura had reached the legendary rank. I'm sure. The other elite had a long black braid and was emitting a gold rank life aura. His scent is here, he's definitely been here. The leader nodded. Then let me take a good look. The next moment, he used a divine technique to reverse time. This divine technique could replay sounds and images of the past, directly transmitting them to the depths of the leader's heart. The leader's body suddenly trembled. This tremor was noticed by the other two, and they were shocked. They had never seen their leader lose his composure like this before. The next moment, the legendary elite said in a deep voice, "The divine technique is not very effective. Some kind of powerful force is preventing me from continuing my investigation. I can only barely hear a few sounds. I can hear the terrifying roars of the beast horde, the berating of a priest of the Xingming Emperor, the surrender of an aristocrat, the desperate roar of the Flame Dragon King before its death." The other two elites were shocked and couldn't help but exclaim, "What? Sir, what do you mean?" "That's right, the missing third squad of our institute was all lost here. There used to be an island here, Confusion Island. This used to be the base of the war traffickers." The two elites who received the information exclaimed again, "Grandmaster Alchemist war traffickers? A battle broke out here, the Confusion Island sank and everyone died." The leader wasn't sure about this. The divine technique's effect had already reached its final stage. He calmed himself down and continued to listen. Soon, he heard some people talking intermittently and vaguely. "We should go. Speaking of the captain, I only acknowledge you. No, to be precise, we all acknowledge you, sir. But I'm just a beast. No, no one thinks that. You're the one who led us, you're our recognized leader. You're a true knight." The conversation was like the wind in a dream, quickly dissipating. The leader sighed, knowing that he wouldn't get anything else. The divine technique also stopped. There are still people who survived. They most likely obtained a large amount of spoils of war, the war traffickers' inheritance. The leader said, "Who are they?" The two of them hurriedly asked. The leader shook his head and regretfully replied, "I can't confirm. I can only confirm that a leader has emerged among them, and this leader is very prestigious. If even you can't confirm it, sir, I'm afraid no one else in the Empire would be able to find out more information." The other two were very dejected. The leader scoffed. "The fog of darkness shrouded for a while, but it will eventually be illuminated by the light. These people can't hide, they'll be exposed one day. We'll continue with our mission. You go back and report this to the Institute. First, issue a bounty on this group of people." "Yes, sir." "Then what's the code name of the bounty?" If they don't know the name, then they'll use a code name. War traffickers are a code name. The leader thought for a bit. Beast Knight, end of Volume 1. Chapter 214. In the sky above the dense forest, a group of colorful birds suddenly flew up. The sharp scimitar drew a bright light in the air and cut the vines blocking the way into two. The scimitar slashed continuously and finally opened up a narrow passage. Two humans were in charge of opening the way. One of them held a scimitar, and the other held a broad-bladed battle axe with both hands. Behind them was a long line. Most of the people in the line were humans, but there were also orcs, half-elves, half-orcs, and so on. Their equipment was not excellent. Many of them only had cotton armor, not leather armor. A small number of them held bows and long guns. Most of them had melee weapons, and scimitars were the most common. Their appearances were not neat. Many of them were very sloppy, with disheveled hair and yellow teeth. Some of them had a strong body odor that emitted a stench. They probably had not bathed for a long time. Many of them had incomplete bodies. Those who were missing arms or legs were replaced by prosthetic. This was a group of pirates. The leader of the pirates was a rat man. No one knew his specific name, but everyone called him Dusty. His body was like a human's, with 2 arms and 2 legs, but his head was a rat's head, and his entire body was covered in rat hair. His hands did not have 5 fingers like a human's, but 4 fingers like a rat. However, unlike his subordinates, this rat man's clothes were straight and he wore a knight's uniform. His clothes were quite neat, and there was even an exquisite handkerchief in his chest pocket as a carving. Its rat hair was gray, and it was obvious that it had been carefully taken care of. It was smooth and supple. At the same time, there was no unpleasant body odor on its body, but a fragrance. He sprayed perfume. He wore long black leather boots of exquisite craftsmanship and a rapier at his waist. This damn weather! I hate this place. The pirate leader, who was dressed in gray, tugged at his collar. His collar was very stylish, but because of this, it tightly bound his neck. Walking in such a hot and humid rainforest, covered in dust and sweating all over, and the collar tightly wrapped around his neck, made him feel very tormented. After a fierce mental struggle, he finally decided to unbutton the first button near his neck. Immediately, he exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. His breathing was smooth and his entire body was much more relaxed. "Captain, what should we do next?" Not long after, the team stopped moving forward, and the vanguard ran back to ask. The vegetation in the rainforest was so dense that it covered the sky and the sun. It was easy to get lost. Therefore, every time they advanced a certain distance, the pirates would stop and ask about the dust. A man in gray carefully reached his hand to his collar. His collar was buttoned again. He unbuttoned his shirt, revealing more of his neck and the thin black rope around it. He took out the thin black rope, and there was a bone hanging from it. This bone was deathly white. Judging from its size and shape, it should be a gnome's finger bone. His entire body was covered in dust. He grabbed the rope and let his finger bones dangle in the air. After a few breaths, the finger bone actually started to shake slowly. Then, like a compass, it slowly pointed in a certain direction in the forest. The reaction of the phalanx was quite strong, which filled his disheartened heart with joy and curiosity. What kind of treasure could be so tempting to the phalanx? It shouldn't be too far away. "Let's go in this direction," the man in gray said with a hint of urgency. Hiss, hiss, a large number of snakes stuck out their tongues and blocked the pirates' path. At the same time, various birds swooped down from the sky. The pirates started to fight under the command of a man in gray. They came prepared. They prepared a large number of insect repellent, snake repellent, antidote, and so on. But these snakes and birds were in a frenzy. They were not afraid of death. They all had a fierce attitude of wanting to stop this group of islands even if they had to sacrifice themselves. especially when the snake-type and bird-type magical beasts started to attack. The pirates immediately showed signs of defeat. "Captain, we can't hold on any longer. These beasts are too strange. Their bodies are at least twice the size of normal beasts." "Ah!" A pirate let out a scream. His eyeballs were pecked out by a bird-type magical beast. A man in gray snorted unhappily, "A bunch of trash. In the end, you still need me to take action." In the next moment, he activated his chi. The smooth surface of his gray hair suddenly became blurry. The ends of the fine gray hair started to dissipate, forming wisps of gray fog. And in the midst of the gray fog, there was a silver luster. He was actually a silver-ranked chi practitioner. Fighting technique, gray fog wave. In the next moment, the gray fog formed on the surface of his body and suddenly spread forward, forming a gray fog ripple. Wherever the gray fog ripple went, the snakes and birds fell to the ground one after another, motionless. They had all lost their lives, because there were no silver-ranked magical beasts, and there were only 3 or 4 black iron-ranked snake-type and bird-type magical beasts. Under the sweep of the gray fog, a man in gray easily won a great victory. The pirates immediately cheered. A man in gray snorted coldly again and touched his head with a smug expression. Because of the fighting technique just now, the mouse hair all over his body was a little shorter. This made a man in gray, who usually paid attention to his appearance, very concerned. From the aesthetic point of view of the rat orc, a smooth and soft mouse hair was the greatest symbol of handsomeness. "I've used my fighting technique very frequently this month, so I should use it as little as possible. There are still 15 days until the middle of next month." A man in gray sighed in frustration. A rat orc's blood would flow faster during the full moon, his wounds would heal faster at night, and his hair would grow faster. "But I believe that the treasure pointed to by the phalanx will definitely be able to make up for my losses." Crossing the corpses that covered the ground, a man in gray finally arrived at the center and saw the true appearance of the treasure. There were very few treasures, only one. It was a golden coffin 3 meters long and 1.8 meters wide. The surface of the coffin was inlaid with reliefs made of green jade, and there were silver edges on the reliefs. The reliefs with silver edges of the green jade depicted an elegant winding snake body and broad and gorgeous wings. On the inner wall of the coffin, there were 12 murals drawn with black lines. The murals were simple and unadorned, depicting gods, creation, worship, heavenly light, and other mythical content. After the pirates were pleasantly surprised, disappointment appeared on their faces. "Captain, why is there only this one?" They imagined a small mountain of gold and jewelry. A man in gray carefully sized up the coffin and also felt strange. He took out the phalanx pendant again. This time, the phalanx reacted extremely violently. The entire bone trembled excitedly and pounced on the golden coffin, pulling the rope out in a diagonal straight line. "The phalanx is referring to this coffin? What the hell is this thing?" Although he was dressed in gray clothes, his knowledge was very limited and he could not see any clues. However, he trusted the phalanx very much and confirmed that this was the goal of his trip, and it must be priceless. "Little ones, search around and see if there's a coffin lid," a man in gray ordered. Not long after, the pirates returned, but they found nothing. Covered in dust nodded and assigned 6 more pirates to work together to lift the heavy coffin. The team returned the way they came. The return journey was quite smooth. More than half an hour later, they returned to the seaside. Their pirate ship was anchored beside the reef. "We're finally back. I'm drenched. The first thing I want to do when I get back to the ship is to take a hot bath." Just as a man in gray relaxed, a few figures appeared on the pirate ship. "There's an enemy!" The pirates instantly became chaotic and pulled out their weapons. A man in gray narrowed his eyes into slit. "You've worked hard." The leader of the enemy was a young man. He had blonde hair and clear eyes that were as blue as the sky. At this moment, He was smiling, revealing his pure white teeth. He was so handsome that a man in gray could not help but praise in his heart, "This is a beautiful young man of the human race. We just need this coffin and put them down. You can leave. I swear on. Yes, my reputation, I won't do anything to you," the beautiful young man said loudly. The pirates burst into laughter. A man in gray also laughed. He reached out and stroked the soft and smooth mouse hair on his head. "Young human boy, where are you from? You actually dare to steal from me, you're really bold. He must be a newcomer. The kind that just went to sea. Ha ha, there have been too many of these little fellows recently. Yes, child, the position of the Pirate King is not something you can sit on." The pirates were noisy and gradually relaxed. This was because the life aura of the handsome young man and the others were very weak. Only one of them was black iron, and the rest were bronze. "All right, I'm in a good mood today. Surrender and work for us for 3 months, and we'll let you live." A man in gray waved his hand. He had obtained a mysterious treasure and had gained a lot. As for the enemies of the young man, he did not take them seriously. Especially because the young man was so good-looking, he could not kill him. The young leader was stunned. A half-beast man behind him snorted. "It seems that the pearl foam has its advantages and disadvantages. Don't waste any more time." "All right." The young leader nodded. Thus, in the next moment, the burly half-beast man directly jumped down from the towering side of the ship. He stirred up his chi, held a two-handed sword in one hand, and bravely rushed into the crowd. When he made his move, he immediately exposed his true cultivation. Silver Peak. A man in gray's pupils shrank and he quickly dodged. The pirates immediately fell into fear and panic. They were caught off guard and were not a match for the half-beast man. The half-beast man caused a reign of terror among the pirates. He was invincible, and no one could stop him. The pirates howled miserably. Some retreated in defeat, while others were provoked. Even though they knew that they were no match for him, they still rushed forward and died even faster. "Damn it!" A man in gray clenched his teeth, and his body shook. Fighting technique, gray fog sky. After a few breaths, the battlefield was shrouded in gray fog. The fog did not have any killing power, but it was unusual. Vision and perception were greatly restricted. A man in gray blended perfectly into the gray fog. When he reappeared, he was already behind the young leader. "Subdue him, and that half-beast man will have many misgivings." A man in gray held a rapier in his hand. The tip of the rapier was gently pressed against the back of the young leader. "Don't move! If you move, I'll kill you. Quickly tell your men to stop." The young leader seemed to be very arrogant. He was not wearing any armor, and this made a man in gray feel very lucky. But in the next moment, a man in gray felt incomparably terrified. The young leader chuckled and suddenly retreated. He resisted the sharp tip of the rapier and turned around. The rapier did not pierce through his stomach. Instead, it bent violently, and then cut through the young leader's clothes, leaving a trail of sparks on his skin. Dragon scales! A man in gray was shocked. He saw a large piece of vermilion dragon scales from the torn clothes. Ugh! A man in gray's neck was suddenly grabbed by the young leader's hand. The young leader's hand was as hard as a rock, as hard as steel. It was no longer a human hand, but a dragon claw. The aura of a silver rank was everywhere. "You are a dragon man?" A man in gray was shocked. Chapter 2:15. Ah! Scab couldn't help but scream. He knelt on the ground, a piece of flesh on his arm cut off by the dagger. Lon Zao was the instigator. He handed the dagger to the person behind him and left expressionlessly. Behind him was Baya. Baya took the dagger, gritted his teeth, and stood in front of Scab. He looked down at Scab. Normally, he would never have imagined such a scene, the high and mighty figure, the priest of the Qingming Emperor, Scab, was actually kneeling in front of him, a commoner. Sometimes, reality was more absurd than fantasy. Scab was already riddled with scars and covered in blood. His flesh had almost been cut off, revealing his pale white bones. Yet, he still couldn't die. The painful torture caused Scab to foam at his mouth. His expression twisted. "Don't hesitate, kid. Do it." Lan Zhao didn't go far. He stood at the side and urged Baiya. Baiya only had to grit his teeth and raise the dagger above his head. However, his movements froze. He hesitated, his arms trembling, and the dagger in his hands trembled even more. Scab saw this scene and suddenly laughed. He had no hair, and his life force was almost exhausted. His entire person was extremely old. At this moment, his face was covered in blood, and the wounds on his face were torn open, revealing his pale cheekbones. He looked exceptionally ferocious and terrifying. His extremely weak voice hoarsely said, "He, our kid is afraid. You should be afraid because you know that if you kill me with this dagger, you will commit a capital crime. You will become a wanted criminal of the Empire, an enemy of the Qingming sect. Your sins are so grave that even if I kill you, it won't be enough. I have to kill your entire family to slightly quell the Empire's anger. Come on, do it. If you kill me, you will be consigned to eternal damnation." Ha 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 ha. Baiya became more and more hesitant, his whole body almost swaying. "Shut up, you lunatic!" Lan Zhao angrily shouted. "It is because of you that we are in such a desperate situation. Baiya, do it!" Baiya's face was pale. He really couldn't do it. In the past 20 years of his life, he had been taught by everyone around him that he could not offend a noble person. Otherwise, the consequences would be extremely severe. But now, he wanted to kill Scab. He could risk his life to rescue Tsang Su from the group of lizards, but he could not kill Scab in front of him. "I can't do it." Baiya trembled. His voice was weak, and he was about to cry. Almost everyone had laid their hands on Scab. Now, countless gazes were focused on Baiya. Lan Zhao was anxious and wanted to help, but Zhonggu stopped him. "Let him do it himself. Only when he personally makes a move can he be considered one of us." "Attack!" Lan Zhao suddenly roared. Baiya felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His body trembled, and he unconsciously thrust his arms down. The dagger pierced deeply into the right side of Scab's neck and into the latter's trachea. Fresh blood slowly gushed out. Scab's mouth was also foaming with blood. He laughed. "You're finished. Your whole family is finished. All of you sinners have to die. I'm just leaving first. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you." Ha ha. Baiya was in a daze. He unconsciously let go of the dagger's handle and shook his head continuously. He took a few steps back and then fell on his butt. Scab's breath gradually disappeared, but his laughter continued to spread. Bright red blood gushed out. More and more of it flowed out, gradually changing color from bright red to a deep blue. The blue blood immediately submerged the entire fourth level, emitting a sound similar to that of a tidal wave. Whistling, it instantly swept Baiya to the deepest part of the sea. In the next moment, Baiya suddenly woke up with a start. He gasped for breath, and his whole body was covered in cold sweat. He reacted. "I had a nightmare again." He covered his pale face. After a long while, his breathing gradually calmed down. However, his mood was still not calm. He glanced out the window. The huge round window was made of glass and was a meter thick. Outside the round window was a dark sea. Baiya got out of the hammock. The hammock was tightly tied to two sturdy metal poles. Under the hammock was a wooden box. Baiya's clothes were placed on the wooden box. Baiya took the clothes away, opened the wooden box, and carefully took out ink, a pen, and parchment. He half squatted on the ground. Under the magical light of the blue strip on the ceiling above his head, he began to write a letter. Dear Miss Sybil, I woke up in the strange fish again. It has been 5 days since we escaped from the strange fish island. We are still searching for the sapphire gold coffin. This artifact was thrown into the portal before, and only Scab knows its specific location. Scab is already dead. I killed him. I am very pained by this. I am very afraid. What Scab said to me in my dream, I knew it was true. I committed murder, and it was a priest, an important person in the Empire. I didn't want to do it, but I had no choice. I really had no choice. Everyone else did it, but I didn't. Then I would be abandoned by them. Of course, I have to admit that at the moment of stabbing, my heart was filled with excitement and pleasure. But after so many days, after I calmed down, my heart was full of regret and worry. I originally wanted to become a knight and serve the Empire. But now, I am a fugitive, wanted by the Empire. Fate played tricks on me. Sometimes I even feel despair. The Empire is so powerful. One day I will be caught and I will bow my head and be executed. I will be hanged or beheaded. My family will also suffer because of me. Please believe me, Honorable Miss Sybil, I really didn't mean to kill Father Scab. Even if he abandoned us for the artifact, Lord Jinjin was not killed by us. He has been imprisoned on the strange fish. He is the hope of many of us. We hope to use him to negotiate with the 100 Needles Patriarch. Through this former noble of the South and the influence of the Wisteria Chamber of Commerce, we can get through the Empire's upper echelons and exonerate ourselves. Everyone knows that going against the Empire is stupid and hopeless. We are all human, at least the blood of the human race flows in our bodies. If we leave the Empire, where can we go? All of this is really a trick of fate. I believe that even the leader doesn't really want to do anything to Father Scab. But there is really no other way. If we don't kill him, we can't escape. Thank you, Miss Sybil. When I write to you, my mood always quickly stabilizes. Please forgive me, I can't send these letters to you. I have to keep it a secret. At this point, Baya stopped writing. She heard a huge commotion. First, it was the sound of metal opening and closing, then the sound of seawater rushing out. Baya was not unfamiliar with this sound. He immediately realized, Sir is back. He quickly got up, picked up his sword, and walked out of the corner to a narrow passage made of metal. He passed through the passage and arrived in front of a metal door. The metal door quickly opened, revealing a spacious hall. There were still some water stains on the floor of the hall. In the center stood the young beast knight and Zhonggu. Captain, Sir Zhonggu, you finally retrieved the cyan gold coffin. Great, Lady Zd can be saved. Baya saw the gorgeous coffin carried by Zhonggu and was immediately overjoyed. The two nodded to Baya and left the entrance hall. They passed through the passage and went deeper into Monster Fish. After being deliberately delayed and squandered by Scab, the mana pool was almost completely dried up. It couldn't even transport everyone, let alone take away the artifact. But with the help of the Tower Genie, they found the alchemy ship. Thinking about it carefully, it wasn't strange. Since Monster Island wasn't a demiplane and was hidden in the sea, it was normal for there to be ships ready to go in and out. Not long after, in the alchemy room, the alchemy array surrounding the cyan gold coffin was completed. The Tower Genie's voice sounded. Beginning inspection of the alchemy array. 10%, 20%, 100%. The alchemy array is accurate. Beginning transfer of mana. Countdown to activation of the alchemy array. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A slight buzzing sound was heard. The walls, floor, and ceiling of the alchemy room lit up with lines, some straight and some curved. These lines slowly extended, leaving the plane and condensing in the air, forming a hollow sphere. Finally, the lines converged on the cyan gold coffin in the center. The light of the array became somewhat dazzling, and the cyan gold coffin began to tremble slightly. As the monster fish's mana was greatly depleted, a green liquid brewed in the coffin. Zidi's body was placed in the coffin. Under the gaze of the youth, Zhong-gu and the others, it was gradually submerged in the green liquid. Not long after, the alchemy array stopped and the cyan gold coffin calmed down. A part of the green liquid was absorbed by Zidi's body, but more than half remained. Zidi didn't wake up. Everyone was very disappointed by this result. The substitute's eyes dimmed. You killed our president." Fat Tongue was the most agitated. He couldn't accept this fact and grabbed Sang-Soo's collar. Sang-Soo coughed. "Calm down. I said before that I wasn't 100% sure." "Okay, let go." We all agreed to Sang-Soo's suggestion. The youth sighed. Fat Tongue was still very agitated, but Lan Zhao pulled him over and saved Sang-Soo. Fat Tongue began to cry. The youth reached out and stroked Zidi's cheek, feeling the smoothness and warmth. The green liquid is still effective. Her injuries should be completely healed. This green liquid is very thin. The alchemy array we hurriedly prepared can't fully display the effects of the cyan gold coffin. Maybe we should gather more magic materials and build a better alchemy array. But Sang-Soo shook his head. According to the Tower Genie, even the War Dealer's alchemy array doesn't have the effect of rebirth. I think the problem should be with President Zidi's soul. Soul? Yes. President Zidi fought with Scab on the 4th floor before, and her spirit was greatly depleted. Boom boom boom. Before Sang-Soo could finish his words, a series of loud noises interrupted him. The Tower Genie's voice became urgent. "Warning! Warning! 3 enemy ships have appeared southeast of the sea. The number of enemies is unknown, and their strength is unknown. Meet the enemy," the youth ordered, and the surrounding people immediately responded. Chapter 216. The young knight, Zhong-gu, and the others swam out of the strange fish and quickly floated up. The closer they got to the surface, the more light there was and the clearer their vision became. The roar of the cannons could also be heard more clearly. From time to time, there were iron balls and cannonballs mixed with broken pieces of wood and broken corpses falling into the sea with a large number of bubbles. The young knight and Zhong-gu could see the situation clearly from the bottom of the water. The 3 enemy ships were rushing towards the gray pirate ship, but there was still some distance between them. During the charge, the 3 enemy ships kept firing cannons. The gray substitute was no match for the Dragon Man and had long been captured. His subordinates were also imprisoned in the pirate ship's cabin. Therefore, the gray rat pirate ship was bathed in the rain of cannonballs and was completely passive. The young knight and Zhong-gu were the first to emerge from the water and boarded the pirate ship from the back. Because the ship's hull was blocking them, the enemy should not be able to see them. "Zhong-gu, go and release those pirates." "I'll go find Gray," the young knight said as he ran. Zhong-gu nodded and quickly parted with the young knight at the stairs. The young knight broke through a door and saw a body covered in dust. Gray was sitting on the bed with anti-magic shackles on his body. These shackles were made in the alchemy factory of the war traffickers and could easily imprison Gray of the silver level. "It seems that your enemies are here. Don't you want to say anything?" the young knight said. Gray sneered and quickly stood up, straightening his body. At this moment, he seemed to have broken away from his captive status. "I heard the horn clearly. They're here to save me." The young knight was stunned. He did not expect Gray's answer to be this. Since when did pirates become so loyal? Gray raised his head and said with a touch of pride, "Of course, ordinary pirates would not be like this, but I'm a member of the Brothers pirate crew. I'm ranked 49th among all the brothers." The Brothers pirate crew. The young knight was shocked. This pirate crew was world famous and could be said to be the largest pirate crew in the world today. Their leader was nicknamed Firebeard and was a legendary warrior. He was generous and loyal, and his charisma was extremely strong. He attracted and recruited many pirate captains. Firebeard and them became sworn brothers and gradually formed a huge force on the sea. "Take me to the deck. I only need to shout to make them stop," said the man in gray. He didn't want to start a war either. The young knight hesitated for a moment, then nodded. He grabbed Dusty and brought him to the deck. Zongu arrived shortly after. He had already released all the imprisoned pirates. The pirates began to operate the ship. Standing at the side of the ship, he carefully identified the flags of the 3 enemy ships. At this moment it was evening. There was a large expanse of fiery clouds in the sky. Under the gentle breeze, the seawater sparkled, appearing dazzling and magnificent. The view was very good. Covered in Gray chuckled and said to the young knight behind him, "It's Gold Chin and Sea Snake Lady. They are both captains of the brother pirates and are ranked above me. Gold Chin is at the pinnacle of the silver rank, and the Sea Snake Woman is a silver rank magician. You may have the ability to fight, but what's the point? Do you want to become the sworn enemy of the brother pirates? I'm a respectable person. I'm not as good as you, so I'm convinced of my defeat. In the end, I was captured by you. I'm willing to exchange treasures for my freedom, my ship, and my crew." Dusty had said the same thing when he was captured. But at that time, the substitute was in a hurry to move the golden coffin back and didn't interrogate Dusty. Therefore, the substitute had only just learned that Dusty was a member of the brother pirates. The young knight thought for a moment, then nodded and agreed to Dusty's condition. If he was really a Templar knight, perhaps he wouldn't have let Dusty go. But the young knight already knew the truth and no longer held himself to the strict dogma of the Templar knight. The most important thing now is to wake up ZD and let the Wisteria Chamber of Commerce play a role. The second is to use the captive Zhenjin to contact the leader of the 100 Needles. Combine the two and try to get rid of the crime. The young knight didn't want to become a wanted criminal of the Empire. Killing Scab was a last resort. Although it was a capital offense, there was still a chance. After all, Scab was not a bishop, but a priest. We've inherited the war trafficker's legacy. We can offer a large part of it in exchange for the Empire's forgiveness. Benefits could move people's hearts. If they couldn't, it was usually because the benefits weren't enough. No one wanted to be wanted by the Empire. In this world, the Qingming Empire was the most powerful. No one could compare to it. Once this is done, I'll go look for clues and find out my true identity. It wasn't just the young knight. ZD also needed to revitalize her Wisteria Chamber of Commerce. Zhongji's original plan was to go to the Wasteland continent and make a name for himself. Song Su's wanted by the Sand Tower family could also be resolved. He could go back and reconcile with his son in a dignified manner. Everyone trusts me and elected me as their leader. I have to be responsible for myself and others. Now, it's better to avoid trouble. The young knight's mind was clear. Dusty was just an accident. The substitute's main goal had been achieved. He had taken back the golden coffin. Gold Chin and Sea Snake Woman were very strong. More importantly, they were strong and at their peak. They were backed by the Brothers Pirate Group. This was the largest pirate group in the world. Even in the face of the Empire's naval fleet, they had the ability to contend. After getting the young man's promise, Dusty shouted loudly, "Stop, captains. I'm Dusty, but I'm still alive. You appeared in time. I'll thank you later. Let's stop for now." However, the response was even more intense gunfire. Dusty was stunned and couldn't believe it. "This is the Brothers Pirate Group you were talking about?" Zongu couldn't help but ridicule. Gold Chin's voice came, "Dusty, don't blame us for not being loyal. You know, this is a special time. As long as you hand over the treasure, we'll let you go." Damn it. Dusty was angry. "You two dare to attack a brother in the Alliance. Aren't you afraid of the boss punishment?" "Ha!" Sea Snake Woman's laughter came. "Now is the time for the 3 legendary pirates to fight for the throne. The boss can't even take care of himself. Even if he pursues the matter in the future, we'll just hand over this treasure. If the boss can really become the 7th-generation Pirate King and sit on the throne, we'll definitely contribute greatly. Fight for the throne of the 7th-generation Pirate King? The young knight and Zhonggu looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. During the time they were struggling to survive on Confusion Island, such a big event had happened in the sea. The Pirate King wasn't a purely honorary title. It was the name of a god and also the throne. Ascending to the throne of the Pirate King, even if one was just a mortal, could have the power of a god. Of course, this was an exaggeration and only existed in theory. There had never been such an example in history. In history, pirate activities were rampant. When the pirates' faith in the Pirate King reached a certain level, they could condense the throne. It turns out that Dusty and Gold Chin were desperately collecting treasures to hold a ceremony. The Pirate King's divine domain and divine domain included navigation, treasure hunting, plundering, theft, naval warfare, and many other aspects. The ceremony had only just begun. At this stage, whoever collected more treasures would gain more divinity's favor. After a series of stages, whoever received more favor in the end would become the 7th-generation Pirate King. Surrounding the fight for the pirate throne, huge waves were set off in the sea of the entire world. The young knight and his group had just escaped from Confusion Island when they were swept in by this wave. The 3 enemy warships were getting closer. Dusty gritted his teeth and shouted again, "Do the 2 of you also covet the pirate throne? We're only silver. This isn't something we can have extravagant hopes for." Among the generations of pirate kings, the 6th generation with the lowest cultivation base was at the gold level. But not long after the 6th generation sat on the throne, he was assassinated by a legend. It's obvious that the divine power bestowed by the throne isn't our true power. Gold Chin laughed loudly. Of course we know. We only want the treasures you obtained. Don't try to play dumb. We won't let you get away with it. Do you know that on the Pirate City's holy tablet, your Dusty name is now ranked first? Dusty was shocked. He turned to look at the young man behind him. What's in that coffin? It actually allowed me to jump to first place. The holy tablet displayed the rankings of the pirates who had received the favor of divinity. Wait. Dusty's eyes suddenly flashed. He shouted, "I was robbed. I've already lost that coffin. Now my name must have fallen to a normal position." Liar. You still want to lie to us? Gold Chin snorted coldly. The sea snake lady said sarcastically, "Dusty, I heard that you're a decent person. Since we've seen through your trick, you won't succeed no matter how many times you try. Before firing, I used magic to contact the Pirate City to confirm the ranking again. We can understand that you're not willing to accept this. If we had really robbed you, I'm afraid you wouldn't be so decent." "This is impossible!" Dusty shouted. He felt extremely wrong. He had clearly been robbed and captured. His subordinates were all imprisoned. Even the gray rat had fallen into the hands of others. Why was his name still on the holy tablet? This was no joke. If things went wrong, he would really die. Now, he had become the target of all the pirate. He was the little white wave flower at the tip of the tide. If he didn't clear up this misunderstanding, he wouldn't be able to hand over the treasures. His fate was bleak. Dusty was a pirate captain. Of course, he wasn't afraid of death. But dying like this was too much of a grievance. No, this is very likely. The young knight's heart skipped a beat. He glanced at Zhonggu. Zhonggu also looked at him at the same time. A name appeared in their minds at the same time, Pearl Foam. Chapter 217. The central tower of the War Dealer's Alchemy Factory had 4 floors. The first floor had the sapphire gold coffin, the second floor had the fairy tale of the mermaid, and the third floor had the second blood core. The first time Scab had opened a portal, he had sent the sapphire gold coffin to a deserted island near the Confusion Island. The fairy tale of the mermaid had never been given out. After killing the war dealer, the fairy tale of the mermaid fell into the hands of the young knight and his group. After using the deep-sea monster fish to escape, they followed the Tower Genie's instructions and set up an alchemy array to open the fairy tale of the mermaid. After the large shell opened, there were dozens of pearls. These pearls were multicolored and uniform in size. From the outside they looked like soap bubbles. They were completely transparent inside, as if they were empty, and the outside was a layer of spherical bubbles. But in fact, these pearls could be pinched with one's hand, and they were very hard to the touch. This was the pearl foam. All this time, the reason why the war dealer's Confusion Island could hide in the Origin World's sea without being discovered was because of this divine artifact. To be more precise, they used the pearl foam to disguise themselves and confuse divinations, prophecies, and other methods. After the destruction of the Confusion Island, the substitute and his group immediately used several pearl foam to protect themselves. Because of this, when Dusty saw the youth and Zhong Gu, he mistakenly thought that they were all black iron rank. Now, the youth and Zhong Gu once again saw the power of the pearl foam. If not for the protection of the pearl foam, their names would have been on the pirate city's sacred tablet, completely exposing themselves. But now, Dusty had taken the blame for them. Quick, quick! Guys, start the ship for me! Cannonballs rained down, and Dusty shouted anxiously. Now was not the time to investigate. Ha ha! On the enemy ship, the Sea Snake Lady laughed. She was wearing a revealing reddish-brown leather outfit, and her long wavy hair hung down to her waist. She held the skin of a sea snake in her left hand, and a glass bottle filled with blue liquid in her right hand. She had already started chanting, but at this moment the chanting suddenly stopped. 1/10 of the blue liquid in the glass bottle gushed out, converging into the sea snake's skin. The snake's skin blossomed with a faint blue light. The Sea Snake Lady raised her left hand and threw the snake's skin into the air. The snake's skin suddenly exploded, turning into a snake-shaped water stream that shot towards the gray mouse. Water spell, curved snake water arrow. The water arrow streaked across the sky at a very fast speed. In just a few breaths, it arrived above the gray rat. It was guided by the sea snake woman's spirit. It did not directly pounce on the gray knight, the young knight, and the Zhong Gu, nor did it attack the other pirates. Instead, it directly pounced on the sail of the gray rat. Wherever it went, holes would be drilled out of the sails, and the ropes would be broken in an instant. Damn it! Let me go! Seeing this, the man in ashes was furious. But the next moment, the young knight behind him took out an alchemy crossbow and shot 3 arrows in a row. 2 of the arrows were dodged by the crooked snake water arrow, but the 3rd arrow hit it right in the middle. With a boom, the water arrow exploded. The sea snake woman snorted. Her spirit attached to the water arrow was also destroyed by the young knight's alchemy arrow. Good archery! Dusty praised. Zhong Ji's expression was calm. He had seen this scene many times before. Dressed in gray immediately roared, urging the pirates to speed up and get the gray rat to move. The pirates also knew that the situation was serious. As they wrote with all their might, the gray rat began to move slowly. Dusty, your subordinate's archery is not bad. The sea snake woman giggled. Kill him later and feed him to my baby. It will definitely like it. In her opinion, the young knight and Zhong Gu only had the aura of black iron. Furthermore, they were standing behind Dusty, so she mistook them for the latter's subordinates. The sea snake woman was a little embarrassed. The other party was only black iron, but he had broken her spell. This made her, a silver mage, feel embarrassed. Most importantly, she had to admit that continuing to use the curved snake water arrow was a very foolish choice. Her casting materials were much more expensive than alchemy arrows. Furthermore, once the curved snake water arrow was damaged, she would also lose a part of her spirit. This exchange was undoubtedly a losing trade. However, the gray rat had already begun to move slowly. "Don't think of leaving." The sea snake woman gritted her teeth and took out a magic scroll. The next moment, she opened the scroll and imbued it with magic power. Wind-type spell, Windless Domain. The spell immediately took effect. With the gray rat as the center, there was no wind at all within a few hundred meters. The gray rat's bulging sails all drooped down weakly. The slight speed that had just been reduced rapidly. The magic scroll turned into ashes and scattered down between the sea snake woman's slender fingers. The sea snake woman's heart ached. In order to buy this scroll, she had spent a lot of money. As long as we get the treasure, all this investment will be worth it. The sea snake woman's eyes lit up. She was even more determined to get the treasure that was covered in ashes. The Golden Chin stood proudly at the bow of the ship and laughed loudly. He had originally wanted to fire and destroy the mast and sails of the gray rat with chain bullets. However, the sea snake woman's actions had taken drastic measures, so the Golden Chin immediately gave up the idea of firing. After all, the cannon fire was too heavy. If it destroyed the treasure, the losses would be great. "Extend the oars, charge forward," the Golden Chin roared. The Golden Chin's ship was very tall, and the shape of the bow was unique. The bow of a normal ship was like a sharp knife, with the blade facing the sea and riding the wind and wave. However, the bow of the Golden Chin's big chin was like a trapezoid. The square trapezoid slope was slanted towards the sky. Hearing their captain's orders, 36 long oars stretched out from both sides of the big chin's ship. After the long oars entered the water, they paddled together. Just like that, the big chin directly broke into the windless domain. "Fire! Fire!" The gray man roared angrily, looking very nervous. The sound of the gray rat's cannons immediately increased. Some of the cannons were aimed at the sea snake woman's 2 ships, but most of them missed. Some cannonballs landed on the big chin. Although they caused damage, it was not a big deal. At this moment, the enemy simply stopped firing. The big chin quickly shortened the distance between it and the gray rat. A hint of despair flashed through the gray man's eyes. The gray rat could not sail. It was like a passive target. Because the ship could not rotate, the gray rat's cannons could not reach their strongest offensive. The situation was too passive. The Golden Chin is best at boarding battles. The sea snake woman only has 1 ship, and the other is her magic pet. It's a silver-level magical beast, the sea snake. Combined with the sea snake woman's magic, it formed the illusion of another ship. This is her most common tactic. "Let go of me. Boarding battle is our only chance of winning," the gray man said anxiously. Zongo hesitated. If this was a show they were cooperating and released the gray man, Zongo and the youth would be surrounded by 4 silver-level enemies. However, the young knight directly pulled out his thin sword, Silver Lightning, and directly cut open the anti-magic shackles between the gray man's hands and feet. "I am a knight of the Empire. If you win this battle, you will win the chance to atone for your sins. Your sword is in the captain's room. Perform well, and perhaps you can get rid of your identity as a pirate," the young knight said to the gray man. The gray man looked at the young man in surprise, nodded at him, and turned to run to the captain's room. "This is a little risky." Zongo stared at the big chin that was getting closer and closer. "I believe that he is a respectable person," the young knight replied. The big chin rushed closer and closer. Its tall body that was like a city wall brought about a huge sense of pressure. Boom! Finally, it slammed into the side of the gray rat's ship. Due to the special trapezoidal structure of the bow, the gray rat was temporarily lifted off the surface of the sea after being hit. When it fell into the sea, it almost capsized. "Kill! Boys, charge! Kill them all and seize the treasure!" The gray rat was still shaking violently on the surface of the sea when a large number of pirates surged out of the big chin. Some of them threw out hooks and latched onto the side of the gray rat, forcefully pulling the 2 ships together. Then, long planks were laid out to form a temporary wooden bridge. There were also many pirates who directly hung long ropes and swung onto the deck of the Grey Rat. There were already pirates on the deck of the Grey Rat waiting for them. Some of them used long-range crossbows to shoot, while others blocked the side of the ship and used cold weapons to slash. For a moment, the battlefield was filled with sword light and blood rain. Roars, strange cries, cries for help, and the explosion of cannons and muskets intertwined. It was incomparably chaotic. "Come out and fight me!" The Golden Chin stood proudly at the bow of the ship and roared to challenge him. He did not rush onto the Grey Rat. At this moment, one of the Sea Snake Woman's ships also pounced. The illusion was removed, and its original appearance was revealed. Just as the Grey Rat had said, it was a huge sea snake demon beast. The sea snake demon beast directly used its snake body that was dozens of meters long to wrap around the Grey Rat. Its thick and powerful snake body began to shrink fiercely. The Grey Rat's side and deck creaked. It was obvious that it was unable to resist the snake's body. "Sea Snake Woman, don't cause trouble." The Golden Chin was displeased and turned around to roar. The Sea Snake Woman smiled but did not say anything. She stood on the real pirate ship and did not approach the battlefield. Instead, she commanded the Sea Snake Demon Pet to attack. "Stop!" The Grey Rat pounced out from a cannon on the side of the ship. He scuttled onto the sea snake's slippery body and stabbed down with the sharp sword in his hand. The Sea Snake Demon Pet immediately let out a low roar and turned its huge head around to look for the Grey Rat. The Grey Rat dodged left and right. His movements were very agile, and the sea snake was very clumsy. No matter how many times it pounced, the Grey Rat dodged it. While dodging, the Grey Rat continued to attack. His sword was imbued with fighting energy and was extremely sharp. The sea snake's scales could not protect it at all. Seeing that her demon pet was being bullied, the Sea Snake Woman hurriedly urged the Golden Chin, "How long are you going to wait?" The Golden Chin laughed. He was happy to watch the show. The Sea Snake Woman continued to shout, "Hurry up! If others know that we are fighting for this treasure, the consequences will be unpredictable." The Golden Chin immediately stopped smiling. "The Grey Rat, I'm your opponent." At the moment when he jumped, he used his fighting energy. This caused the burly and heavy man to jump high into the sky. Then, he swooped down to attack the Grey Rat. The Grey Rat had just dodged the sea snake's attack. When he looked up, he saw a shadow looming over him. Oh no! It's too late to dodge. The Grey Rat's heart sank. He could only grit his teeth and prepare to take the heavy blow that the Golden Chin had been accumulating for a long time. But at this moment, the young knight and Zhong Gu suddenly appeared beside him. Now, the young knight and Zhong Gu attacked together. The large sword in their hands slashed up like lightning, while the thin sword Silver Lightning drew a storm. The Golden Chin was still grinning and felt that he was going to be seriously injured. In the next moment, his eyes almost popped out. Why are there two silver knights? Awkward. He was in midair and could not use the force to change his direction. Now, like an idiot, he directly crashed into the sword in the enemy's hand. Chapter 218. Captain Gold Chin was in the air, and his life was hanging by a thread. At the critical moment, he roared, and under the stimulation of death, he broke out his most powerful combat power. Silver fighting power gushed out of his body. Just as the information said, there was a touch of gold in the silver fighting power. Gold Chin was indeed at the peak of the silver level. He put his hands behind his back and pulled out the two stacked shields on his back. He poured his fighting power into the shields, and the two shields suddenly burst out a dazzling light. Obviously, his two shields were also magic equipment. If it were other people, they might have given up attacking and chosen to retreat. But whether it was the substitute or Zhong Gu, They were warriors with profound fighting skills. They directly closed their eyes and attacked according to the position in their memory, and their attacks were even fiercer. The strong light from the shields didn't affect Gold Chin. When he saw the attack coming, he could only take a deep breath and combine the two shields in front of him, almost forming a giant shield. Clang! Zhong Ji's two-handed sword was the first to cut the giant shield that was just about to take shape into two halves. A great force surged, and Gold Chin opened the door. He gritted his teeth, the muscles on his arms burst, and the veins on his forehead stood out. He tried to combine the shields again. Time seemed to be very long at this moment. It was only less than a breath's time, but Gold Chin felt extremely nervous, painful, and tormented. Whether he lived or died depended on whether he could get through the difficulties in front of him. Close it for me," Gold Chin roared in his heart. He tried his best, and his eyes almost popped out of their socket. He watched the two shields slowly combine again. There was only one gap left, but at this moment, his pupils suddenly shrunk to the size of a needle. He saw the edge of a thin sword, following the tiny gap, accurately piercing in. It was the thin sword in the hands of the young knight, Silver Lightning. Silver Lightning directly inserted between Gold Chin's eyebrows. "I'm going to die." Gold Chin was completely desperate, but the next moment, a long rope made of water suddenly stretched out, wrapped around his thick waist, and pulled. Gold Chin was originally falling, but he was pulled up by the water rope. He drew an arc in the air and landed safely on the deck. "I'm still alive." The Golden Chin couldn't believe it, and he was still in a state of shock. He had almost paid the price for underestimating his opponent with his life. At the critical moment, it was the Sea Snake Woman's magic that saved him. "Ha ha ha!" Golden Chin laughed out loud. The ecstasy of surviving made his fighting spirit soar. "I was almost killed by you. Now I'm going to teach you a lesson." King Jin slammed his shields together, forming a thick shield. In the next moment, he expended a large amount of battle chi and used a battle skill, Shield Bash. Bang bang bang, he raised his arms in front of him and propped up a giant shield. Like a miniature city wall, he pounced directly at the young man and Zhong Guo. His momentum was extremely strong. The youth immediately jumped and nimbly dodged to the side. On the other hand, Zhong Ji's gaze was firm. "Good timing." He let out a low shout and no longer held the sword with one hand. Instead, he held the hilt with both hands and rushed toward Gold Chin. Bang! The two of them fiercely collided with each other, causing a huge explosion. The confrontation of Do Chi caused a small wave of air to form. The huge recoil made both of them take a few steps back. Golden Chin looked surprised. The confrontation just now was not fanciful. He saw the luster of Zhong Ji's battle chi. This half-orc is also at the peak of silver. Zhong Guo gritted his teeth and moved his shoulders slightly. This guy is not easy to deal with. His arm was once broken. Although it was reattached, it was not that it did not heal. Instead, it was left with hidden dangers. The confrontation just now made him feel the pain of his wound immediately. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Just as Golden Chin was about to lose his footing, the youth's alchemy arrow shot directly at him. Golden Chin did not have time to turn around. However, he was also an experienced fighter. He immediately retracted his left arm to defend himself with a shield. In the next moment, the alchemy arrow exploded. However, no matter if it was acid, flame, or frost, they were all blocked by the shield, and could not cause more damage to Golden Chin. Golden Chin's body was bombarded and fell forward. Zhong Guo keenly seized the opportunity and quickly rushed over. Battle skill or spinning body slash. He changed to holding the sword with one hand again. He slightly bent his body, used his heel as the axis, straightened his arm, and rotated the two-handed sword forcefully. Zhong Guo quickly rotated once. The speed and strength of the two-handed sword were raised to a certain limit. The blade was shining with a silver luster, and he fiercely slashed at Golden Chin's waist. Golden Chin heard the sound of the wind and hurriedly raised the shield in his right hand to protect his waist. Boom! The two-handed sword fiercely stood on his shield, and the shield in Golden Chin's right hand was fiercely pushed away. Both of them took a few steps back again. But this time, Zhonggu retreated less, and Golden Chin took more steps back. Golden Chin did not have time to regroup. The young knight rushed to his back with his sword. Damn it! Golden Chin's face was no longer happy. Instead, it was dignified. He blocked the youth's attack with difficulty, but he was already at a disadvantage. The youth and Zhonggu cooperated well. They took turns to attack like a storm. Golden Chin was alone. Although his defense was outstanding, he had just repelled Zhongji's attack when the young knight's attack arrived. He blocked the young knight's attack, and Zhonggu attacked again. Golden Chin had to use all his strength to defend against each attack. Since the first time he blocked the shield attack, he had no chance to counterattack. After a few defenses, his fighting energy was consumed quickly, and his momentum was reduced by half. How could he be aggressive if he was always passively attacked? At the critical moment, the Sea Snake Lady's support came again. Light blue water shields floated around Golden Chin and constantly rotated around him. Each water shield was the size of a washbasin. Zhongji's two-handed sword slashed at the water shields, and often broke them. But the power of the sword was also reduced by half, and Golden Chin easily defended against it. The young knight's alchemy arrows and thin sword were also mostly offset by the water shields. Golden Chin finally stabilized his footing. But he still could not defeat him. These two people cooperate too well. I'm under too much pressure when facing these two people. If I only join the battle when I'm covered in dust, I'll have to run away. Golden Chin had no choice but to recognize the situation. Fortunately, Covered in Dust did not have time to deal with Golden Chin. He had to tangle with the sea snake monster and restrain its attack. If he let the sea snake deal with the gray rat, the consequences would be very bad once the pirate ship was completely destroyed. Unless they had specific equipment or fighting techniques, a silver extraordinaire could not set foot on the sea. One had to know how to swim after falling into the water, or it was very likely that one would drown. Golden Chin's ship was known for its defense, and it was very difficult to capture. If Covered in Dust and the others did not have a pirate ship, their defeat was almost certain. Fighting technique, Gray Mist attack. Covered in Dust used his signature fighting technique again. Gray Mist surged and covered the huge snake head. The sea snake was attacked, and it roared in pain, spewing a huge amount of green acid. The acid first hit the sail, and immediately corroded a big hole in the sail. Then, it fell on the deck. The deck sizzled, and a pungent stench was emitted. Some unlucky people were splashed by the acid, and their muscles immediately melted, revealing their bones. Their bones did not seem to be corroded by the acid. Seeing this scene, the clown sea serpent, who was far away on the Snake Lady, laughed and began to channel magic. After a dozen breaths, the magic was ready. Spell, Acid Water Elemental. The large pool of green acid on the deck suddenly surged, and 3 water elementals condensed from it. These water elementals were about 2 meters tall, with snake heads, human hands, and no legs. Their bodies and lower limbs were like pillars, and the bottom of the pillar was in contact with the deck, and it was a constantly flowing liquid. The acid water elementals attacked the pirates of the Grey Rat. The pirates let out miserable shrieks and retreated in defeat. Pirates were not a regular army, and their equipment was mainly light. Most of them wore cotton armor, and the better ones were leather armor. Metal armor was rare. Acid could easily corrode flesh, and this made it difficult for the pirates to defend against the acid water elementals. Seeing that the battle situation had changed, the young knight immediately abandoned Golden Chin and rushed to support the pirates of the Grey Rat. He did not want to fight the acid-water elementals in close combat, so he used the alchemy crossbow to destroy them. The young knight withdrew, and Zhonggu was immediately at a disadvantage against Golden Chin. The key was that the sea snake lady turned to support Golden Chin. She cast a spell, and countless raindrops fell from the sky. These raindrops were as fast as bullets, and it was impossible to tell friend from foe, and they covered the deck. Zhonggu and Golden Chin were bathed in the rain of bullets. The former's defense was not as strong as the latter's, and he was soon covered in blood. This half-orc is good, but I have a spellcaster on my side. If this goes on, we will win. Golden Chin became more and more serious. Zhonggu and Golden Chin fought, and both sides' battle energy was severely depleted. Therefore, Zhonggu would rather choose to be injured than use his precious battle energy to defend where it was not necessary. Golden Chin could not help but praise this courageous choice. This can't go on. The young knight's heart sank. If he chose to help Zhonggu, he would not be of much help to the overall battle situation. Golden Chin was obviously a shield warrior, and his defense was much higher than his attack. The sea snake lady is still the biggest threat. We must kill this spellcaster first. Since the beginning of the battle, the situation was vaguely under the control of this silver-level spellcaster. If not for her rescue, Golden Chin would have been dead when he jumped into the air. After that, it was the sea snake lady's multiple reinforcements that allowed Golden Chin to stabilize the situation. Most importantly, she also supported the sea snake magic beast, using acid to form water elements to kill the pirate. She had a variety of methods, and her tactical choices were very flexible, and she held the initiative. Boom! It was another head-on collision. This is troublesome, Zhonggu sighed inwardly, looking at Golden Chin who was holding his shield and not moving. He could not help but feel a headache. The injuries caused by the raindrops of bullets seemed terrifying, but it was actually secondary. The most important thing was that his arm that was once broken was numb. This was not a good sign. The most important thing is still that spellcaster. Zhonggu glanced at the sea snake and gritted his teeth. The sea snake lady was very cunning. She had been hiding in her own pirate ship and never got close to the battlefield. Zhonggu did not even have a chance to attack her. The captain has disappeared. He should be dealing with the sea snake lady. Should I use the deep-sea monster fish? Just as he thought of this, Zhonggu saw Golden Chin rushing towards him. Zhonggu snorted coldly and charged forward with his sword, without any intention of escaping. That silver swordsman has disappeared. On the pirate ship, the sea snake lady frowned. She had also keenly noticed this change. She had experienced many battles and immediately realized that the young knight was very likely going to attack her. Spell Water Mirror. She used this spell 4 times in a row. 3 water mirrors immediately appeared in front of the sea snake lady. One of them failed to cast the spell, causing her mind to be shaken. She hurriedly took out a bottle of potion and drank it. The mental trauma was immediately suppressed. Where is he? Where is he? The scene of the surrounding sea surface and the bottom of the sea appeared in the water mirror, but the sea snake lady searched for a while and did not find anyone. Just as she was about to heave a sigh of relief, a person suddenly fell from the sky, like a meteor, and landed heavily on the deck. With a loud bang, a large hole was created on the first floor of the deck. The sea snake lady's body and mind were shaken. This is too reckless. He actually used himself as a cannonball. As soon as the exchange started, the sea snake lady's side had already stopped firing, but the other side of the gray rat kept firing at the snake lady. It was precisely because of this that the sea snake lady subconsciously did not think of these cannonballs. To be precise, as long as one was normal, one would not think that someone would be willing to be shot out by the cannonballs. The sound of weapons clashing came from the big hole under the deck, as well as the screams of the pirates. Immediately after, the young knight rushed out of the big hole and jumped onto the first deck, less than 10 steps away from the sea snake lady. Seeing the blonde youth in front of her covered in blood and black ash, the sea snake lady's heart sank. This is a lunatic. The young knight rushed over. "Protect me!" the sea snake lady shouted, and the surrounding pirates roared, trying to stop the young knight. "Charge!" The young knight mobilized the chi in his body with all his might, completely ignoring the consumption. The silver lightning weapon was incomparably sharp, and it directly opened a bloody path. The sea snake lady hesitated for a moment. She had a magic scroll for wind stepping, but considering the young man's archery skills, she still chose the more reliable water defensive magic. When the young knight finally rushed in front of the sea snake lady, he saw that the mage was covered by a huge water ball. The slender silver lightning pierced into the water ball, and its power immediately decreased greatly. The young knight's expression changed. The light blue water ball was very deep, and the slender silver lightning could not pierce the sea snake lady inside. Moreover, the water in the water ball was turbulent, and his sword momentum would be seriously affected. He had to work very hard to not be led astray. "Give up, whether it's your slender sword or your alchemy arrow, they are all restrained by my magic." The sea snake lady revealed a victorious smile. "Is that so?" The young knight was expressionless and took a step back. The next moment, his head suddenly transformed into a dragon's head. A strong magic fluctuation surged out of the young knight's body. The sea snake lady's expression changed drastically. "No!" The next moment, roar. The young knight let out a deafening dragon's roar, and a huge sound wave hit the water ball. The water ball fluctuated violently, and then suddenly collapsed after 2 breaths. The magic was broken, and the sea snake lady's body swayed. Blood flowed out of her mouth and nose, and she was dizzy. Magic fluctuations appeared on the young knight's body again. An invisible, terrifying power was emitted from his body, and instantly enveloped the entire snake lady. Dragon's aura. The pirates who wanted to besiege him froze on the spot. Then, there was an endless stream of thumping sounds. Most of the people fell to the deck, foaming at the mouth and fainting. A few of the black iron-ranked pirates half-knelt on the ground, supporting themselves with all their might. As for the sea snake lady, she was already an arrow at the end of its flight. After suffering the dragon's might, she could no longer hold on and fell unconscious. The young knight immediately stepped forward and took out the anti-magic shackles from his arms. He actually captured the water mage. Seeing this scene, the Golden Chin was completely stunned. "So he's the strongest one among the enemies." Zhonggu was surprised, and his body was covered in dust. The silver sea snake hissed and immediately gave up on the grey rat, pouncing on the young knight. However, everyone knew that the outcome was already decided. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.